Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku. Back with another fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Inherited the Will of Freedom. Now before starting, please give this video a like. And subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Leave him alone, Kaken. Just because he's quirkless doesn't mean you can pick on him, Izuku shouted, his voice filled with determination. Kaken's response was a warning, but it didn't shake Izuku's resolve. Instead, it only fueled his desire to protect Makoto. With a firm stamp of his foot on the ground, Izuku yelled back, "Hurt me all you want, I won't allow you to bully him." Kaken, clearly annoyed, gritted his teeth and let off a small explosion in his hand. "Fine then, Izuku. If you want to get beaten up so badly, let's go, you rubbery freak," Kaken taunted. At that time, Izuku was known by that nickname, not yet the symbol of freedom he aspired to be. He introduced himself, stating that this story was about how he became that symbol. Returning to the day that changed everything, Izuku shouted, "Come on then," just as an explosion struck him, knocking the wind out of him. Kaken followed up with another explosion aimed at his head. It was well known that basic attacks like punches and kicks had little effect on Izuku unless delivered by someone exceptionally strong, which forced Kaken to rely on his quirk during their fights. Izuku's durability allowed Kaken to unleash his explosions at full power when they were kids. "Where's all that big talk now, huh?" Kaken snickered, firing another explosion close to Izuku's face. "Throw a punch, you rubbery freak," he taunted. Izuku, frustrated, attempted to stretch his arm back, but Kaken landed an explosion on his hand, causing him to wince in pain. He exclaimed. Kaken continued to mock him, urging him to do better. Izuku could only defend himself. He had no idea how to use his quirk offensively at that time, only defensively in situations like this. The rest of the encounter was mostly Kaken overpowering Izuku. Once Kaken finished, he snickered and walked away, leaving Izuku and Makoto alone. With a weak smile, Izuku asked, "Are you all right, Makoto-san?" Makoto rushed over, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay, Izuku-kun?" he asked. "Yes, I am. Now tell me, are you okay?" Makoto nodded, and Izuku struggled to stand. "Do you need help?" Makoto asked, worry evident in his voice. "No, I'm fine. You get used to this after a while," Izuku replied. "That's not good. Izuku-kun, you should learn how to fight back," Makoto insisted. "I'll learn one day, don't worry," Izuku said with a weak laugh. "Alright, well, I have to go home now. I'll see you tomorrow." However, the next day, Izuku discovered that Makoto had moved to another city due to family issues. "See ya," Izuku said. Once Makoto was out of sight, he fell to the ground in pain, spitting out a bit of blood. He beat me pretty badly today," he whispered to himself. "Come on, let's get home, Izuku," he said, trying to motivate himself. Once back on his feet, he limped out of the park and began his journey home. His home wasn't too far from the park, which was a relief. However, once he reached the main pavement, he realized he didn't have the stamina to make it all the way home. Thinking quickly, he made his way to the nearest bench and sat down. He intended to rest for a moment to regain his strength, but something caught his eye that would change his life forever. "What's that?" After a few moments of sitting, he noticed a manga nearby. At that age, he was really into manga, so he instinctively picked it up. Two-piece. "What's this? I've never seen this before." The cover featured a guy with a straw hat and two other characters behind him. "This looks goofy." Despite his initial skepticism, he grabbed it and began to read. An hour passed and he finished the volume. By the end, he felt reinvigorated, realizing that his quirk was more of a blessing than the useless ability he had thought it was before. "Ruffy is so cool," he exclaimed, grateful that the street was deserted at that time. "I should ask Mom to buy me the rest of the manga when I get home." Spoiler alert, she did. Her enthusiasm matched his, and she ended up buying him every volume, even the ones that came after. Unfortunately, the mangaka had to stop the series after around 200 chapters due to personal issues, which left Izuku feeling distraught. However, he used this setback as motivation. He wanted to carry Ruffy's legacy into the real world and become the symbol of freedom, the #1 hero. Before discovering Two Piece, Izuku had been a massive fan of All Might, but afterward, Ruffy became his main inspiration. As the years went by, he trained his quirk and physical strength, earning respect from Kakin and becoming his rival. He also maintained his hobby of researching and analyzing every hero and villain's strengths and weaknesses, which would serve him well in the future. The analytical skills he gained were tremendous. Now that his early childhood was covered, the real story was about to begin. "Alright kids, I'll be handing out your desired life courses." "Well, what's the point anyway? You all want to become heroes, right?" their teacher exclaimed. Yes, your quirks are wonderful, but I can't allow you guys to use them in school. It's against the rules," he warned. "Hey, teach, don't lump me in with these losers," Kakin declared. Bakugo, you're aiming for UA, aren't you? I saw your test results, and I must say I'm impressed. I'm surprised you aced the mocks." Kakin scoffed at the praise. "Of course I would. I'm the best. But so did Midoriya too. That's really impressive, you two." Instantly, Kakin's excitement was dampened. "He what? Damn it, Izuku, do I have to beat you at something again?" Izuku had hoped to keep his intentions of trying out for the UA entrance exams a secret, but Kakin would have found out anyway. "Kakin, we're drawing right now, aren't we?" Izuku questioned. "Kakin and I always used to compete against each other in everything, resulting in many wins and losses between us." He confidently declared that he would score higher than me on the entrance exam. I quickly turned around and extended my arm, accepting the challenge. Without hesitation, Kakin grabbed my hand and squeezed it firmly, warning me not to cry when he won. I laughed, assuring him I wouldn't as long as he played fair. He chuckled, calling me "stretchy man" in his usual teasing manner. As I approached the beach, I called out to All Might, excited to see him. However, I suddenly remembered that no one knew about his true form, so I quickly covered my mouth to keep my voice down. I apologized softly and continued my strides until I stood directly in front of All Might. I asked him why he had chosen this beach, which looked rather unappealing. All Might transformed, interrupting the sentence. He declared that he had chosen this place for a reason and assigned the task of cleaning up the beach within 10 months. The response was a confident request for 3 months. All Might laughed heartily, encouraging the spirit of determination. He then added that before starting, there was one condition that needed to be followed. Curiosity arose about what this condition might be, expecting something unusual, but it turned out to be quite straightforward. After inspecting the fridge for a moment, the character wrapped their arms around it, lifting it off the floor. They wondered where to put it and noticed the large truck that All Might had pointed to, which seemed suitable enough to hold a portion of the trash. Once ready, they tossed the fridge into the back of the truck and looked around, spotting an oven next. With determination, they sent the oven flying into the truck as well. All Might, impressed, commented on their strength, acknowledging the character's dedication to training. The character explained that having an amazing quirk was pointless without the strength to support it. All Might then mentioned he would be back after getting a coffee, transforming back into his regular state. A few hours later, the character decided to call it a day. It was Saturday, giving them the rest of the day to rest, study, and prepare for training the next day. For the next 3 months, they would wake up and clean the beach as much as possible in 2 hours. Sometimes, they would return after school or later in the day if boredom struck. On one of those days, while cleaning for the second time, they encountered someone who would become both a source of regret and cherished memories. Suddenly, they yelped in surprise as they felt a sharp pain. They lamented their vulnerability to sharp objects, realizing they needed to be more careful. The cut was significant, and they recognized the need for caution in the future. The cut was deep enough for blood to flow, but the pain was something the character was accustomed to, so it didn't affect him much. He thought about getting his first aid kit. Without wasting another moment, he rushed to his bag, only to find someone sitting next to it. When their eyes met, he offered a small smile, but her gaze was focused elsewhere on his finger, where he had received the cut moments before. He reassured her that it was just a light scratch, concerned that she might be worried about his injury. A few seconds passed, and she remained still and silent, which felt strange. Despite his concern, he reached for his bag. The wound needed attention. As he opened it, the girl stopped him by grabbing his hand and expressing her need for it, repeating her plea with urgency. In an unexpected moment, she took his finger and placed it in her mouth. He joked about it tickling, but after a few moments, she let go, flustered by her actions. She apologized repeatedly, explaining that she sometimes couldn't control herself. He placed a reassuring hand on her head, telling her not to worry, suggesting that whatever her reasons were must be serious. She thanked him, and he introduced himself, feeling it was only right after such an unusual encounter. The girl, with blonde hair, sighed and introduced herself as Himiko Toga, her tone carrying a hint of sadness. He proudly announced himself as Izuku Midoriya, the future #1 hero. Toga smiled slightly and took out a plaster from her pocket, sealing his wound. "Here you go, future #1 hero," she said, though he sensed the pain she was hiding behind her smile. She then asked what type of hero he aspired to be. His response was earnest. He wanted to be the kind of hero who was free and unbound, someone everyone could look up to, encouraging them to be themselves. Toga's demeanor shifted as she questioned his ideals. He reiterated that he didn't care about wealth or fame, his priority was everyone's happiness and freedom. Even now, he stood by those words, feeling they defined who he was. Toga's reaction was unexpected. She laughed heartily, finding his perspective amusing. "You're funny, you know that, Midoriya? People like you only exist in comics and manga. No one is as pure as you," she exclaimed. Then, with a more serious tone, she challenged him, asking what he would do when society didn't change its perspective and when people continued to face abuse for being different. "What would you do when people can't be free like you?" After Toga's outburst, Izuku sighed and sat down next to her. He pondered for a moment before a thought struck him. He would ally himself with those who were oppressed. If they couldn't listen to him, they would have to face him. Reflecting on it, he realized he might sound tyrannical, but he hoped she would understand his perspective. Toga's demeanor shifted. She seemed more upbeat. She expressed her surprise at Izuku's response, stating that perhaps there was hope in their troubled society while holding his hand. Izuku encouraged her not to lose hope and asked about her aspirations. Toga shrugged, indicating she felt her life was doomed. Concerned, Izuku pressed her for details, but she brushed it off, saying he shouldn't worry about her. As she stood to leave, Izuku felt a pang of regret for not pressing her further. Before she could walk away, he used his quirk to gently grasp her hand, urging her not to give up on herself. He encouraged her to find something that made her feel free and to be true to herself. Toga smiled warmly at him, calling him cute. Although he didn't hear her soft words, he clearly heard her promise to try. Weeks passed, and Izuku finally finished cleaning the beach, a task that had taken him 3 months. He texted All Might to let him know, and in response, All Might invited him to meet at a cafe the next day. Curious about what was in store for him, Izuku felt a mix of excitement and anticipation. When they met, All Might informed Izuku that for the next 7 months, he would need to train with him. Izuku was taken aback but quickly settled down, realizing he had raised his voice. All Might reminded him to keep it down to avoid disturbing others. When Izuku asked when he would start, All Might simply replied that it would be now. All Might led him to his car, and as they drove, Izuku couldn't help but wonder about All Might's hero work. He questioned whether it was wise to spend his limited quirk usage on training him. Might reassured him that he could train him for 3 hours and still have time for patrols. Izuku mentioned that his studies were going well, though he considered himself only above average academically. All Might encouraged him to aim for the top, sharing that he had excelled in both academics and hero training during his youth. Izuku acknowledged that he could try harder, and All Might praised his spirit. Curious about All Might's personal life, Izuku asked him to drop the hero name and just call him Toshinori. After some playful banter, they arrived at Toshinori's home, which Izuku initially mistook for just a house. Toshinori explained that it was also where he trained, and Izuku realized it made sense to have a training facility at home. Once inside, they headed to an elevator, and Izuku was impressed by its presence. Toshinori explained that it led to his training facility underground. As they descended, Izuku couldn't help but think of superhero lairs. When they reached the bottom, he was amazed by the collection of old suits and gadgets lining the walls. Toshinori announced they had arrived at the training area and handed Izuku a costume, insisting he put it on. Though confused, Izuku complied, slipping into the spandex outfit. Toshinori explained that it had special padding, preparing him for the training ahead. "You'll take less damage from my smashes," All Might declared confidently. "Ah, that makes sense," came the response. "Alright, now that the explanations are out of the way, let us get into the training," All Might stated as he headed into the training room. "Wait." A question lingered. "What now?" All Might asked, his tone a mix of impatience and curiosity. Are we going to be sparring straight up or?" Before the question could finish, All Might grabbed the young hero and flung him into the room. "And to answer your question, yes," he yelled as the young hero landed inside. "Ouch, that hurt," he winced while getting up. "This room is bland. What else would it be? It's a training room. Now attack me." All Might smiled, flexing his bicep. "Alright, old man, let's go." Without wasting another moment, the young hero charged at All Might, throwing a barrage of punches. "Gumo Gumo no Gatling gun. Too slow, kid." All Might began to dodge the punches effortlessly, as if he could see them coming in slow motion. Once the barrage ended, he stood before the young hero with an imposing presence. "Okay, I see," he said with a smile. "Let's see if you can handle this." Suddenly, the air felt heavy as All Might's glare intensified. That's a strong will you have there, kid." At that moment, the young hero had no idea what he meant, but he would soon understand. "What are you talking about? Why has the air become thick? Is this one of your secret tricks?" All Might chuckled at the naive question. "Don't worry, kid. Come attack me again," he challenged. Accepting the challenge, the young hero dashed toward him, only to narrowly dodge a fist aimed at him. Realizing that All Might was now attacking back, he quickly adjusted his strategy. "You've got some reflexes on you, kid." "Whatever," he thought, knowing the punch wasn't anything too special. After a moment to gather his thoughts, he stretched out his foot and used it like a whip, forcing All Might to leap into the air. As All Might soared, the young hero dashed closer and jumped up to meet him. They found themselves face to face in midair. Instantly, he threw a punch, which All Might blocked, countering with a punch that landed squarely on the young hero's face. Using the force of the blow, he stretched his head forward, crashing into All Might's guard. It was a reckless move that backfired, leaving him dazed. "Hey, kid," he heard All Might start to say before everything went black. Minutes later, he woke up in All Might's arms. "What happened?" he weakly asked. "Don't worry about it, kid. I think we should continue this tomorrow." He was about to refuse but felt a sharp pain in his head. "Ouch. Don't worry, kid. Take this and you'll feel better." All Might handed him a pill, which he swallowed with the water provided. After a few moments, the pain subsided, but fatigue set in. "Now I'm going to drop you home. Tomorrow we go again." He nodded in response, too tired to speak. Once home, he went straight to bed, skipping dinner. Luckily, his mother had saved his dinner in the fridge, which he ate at midnight. For the next 7 months, he trained with All Might almost every day. During that time, he had become significantly faster, stronger, and better at using his quirk. His durability and endurance had improved greatly as well. By the end of the training, he had taken 337 regular punches, endured 20 smashes at reduced power, dodged 50 regular punches, evaded 1 smash, and landed 15 clean hits. While it might seem unimpressive on paper, in reality, it was quite the opposite. He felt extremely proud of his progress. By the end, he could confidently say that his endurance and durability had increased significantly, even though he had been quite durable before. As the 10 months came to a close, the UA exams approached. How did he perform? That would be revealed in the next chapter. If this diary were to become a book, it would be a chapter. If it remained a diary, it would simply be the next page. He realized he didn't write "Dear Diary," but that didn't matter. "Good luck, kid," were Toshinori's last words to him before he headed off to the entrance exam. His mother also wished him luck, but he felt confident he would pass without issue. Upon arriving at the school, he noticed more people gathering around him, their faces filled with stress and anxiety. He felt a twinge of guilt for taking the exam so lightly, but that was the result of training with the #1 hero for 7 months. "Oh, you're here," Kaken scoffed. "Were you hoping I wouldn't show up?" he replied smugly. "Whatever, nerd," Kaken shot back, continuing on without stopping. The young hero followed behind him. "The atmosphere in here is tense, huh?" he observed. "Shut up and leave me alone. I'm trying to get into the zone," Kaken snapped. "Alright then, bud, good luck." With the exam starting in 10 minutes, he saw no need to rush in immediately. "I have 5 minutes to mess around. Maybe I should look around campus." "Nah, that's too risky. Maybe I should just go inside." He decided to walk back at a normal pace and noticed he was behind a short girl with brunette hair. He could hear her mumbling something to herself but wasn't interested in what she was saying. Once inside the building, she dropped her glove, and on instinct, he reached down to pick it up for her. "Oh, thank you," she said, bowing slightly. "No worries," he replied, waiting for her to lift her head. When she did, he handed her back her glove. Her face was round and kind of cute, and it was clear her cheeks would be nice to squeeze. With a bright smile, she wished him good luck on the exam. He returned the sentiment as she walked away, and he followed behind her at a distance, not wanting her to think he was stalking her. After a minute or two, he arrived at the entrance to the exam hall. Observing the seating arrangement, he noted that his seat was higher up. When he reached his seat, he recognized the familiar face sitting next to him. It was Kaken. Kaken rolled his eyes and asked why he was there. He explained that his seat was assigned there, to which Kaken replied that he was there for the same reason. Curiosity got the better of him, and he glanced at Kaken's exam papers. It seemed the school wanted them to be near familiar faces until the practical portion began. He was assigned to Battleground A, while Kaken was assigned to Battleground B. He leaned back in his chair, whispering to himself in understanding just as the lights went out and the stage lights turned on. Present Mike, the energetic hero and one of his favorite teachers, greeted the examinees with enthusiasm. He announced that they would start with the written exam, wanting to get that part out of the way first. Once the written portion concluded, Present Mick's excitement filled the room as he announced the start of the practical exam. The atmosphere shifted, with everyone eager to dive into the action. He explained that there would be 2 battlegrounds, A and B, both identical. To clarify the exam rules, he noted that participants had 20 minutes to earn as many points as possible by either destroying robots for attack points or saving people for rescue points. There were 4 robots in total, but only 3 provided points. The smallest robot was worth 1 point and could be easily destroyed. The next, a 2-point robot, was tougher with better speed and durability, and it sometimes fought back. The 3-point robot was even more formidable, often retaliating and boasting superior durability. Lastly, there was the 0-point robot, towering like a multi-story building. Although it didn't attack, its sheer size posed a significant threat, likely intended to test their skills in rescue or destruction. He continued explaining that rescue points were earned by saving people, with the amount depending on how heroic the act was perceived to be. If someone went out of their way to save another, they could earn more points. However, if the intent was merely to destroy a robot, the points would be minimal. The judges would evaluate the heroism of each action, and harming other students was strictly prohibited. Lastly, all participants had to remain within the battlegrounds. As he finished outlining the exam rules, Present Mick's voice boomed through the speakers, signaling the start of the practical exam. He stretched his arms and launched himself through the door, while others remained stunned. Present Mike urged everyone to move, emphasizing that real battles didn't have countdowns. By the time the others rushed into the city, he had already landed and spotted 2 1-point robots. With a smile, he punched through both robots, wondering where the 3-point ones were. Scanning the area, he noticed a 2-point robot to his left, but someone else reached it first. Frustrated, he decided to find a less crowded area and leaped onto the roof of a nearby building. As the day progressed, a middle-aged woman wished her son a good day at school. The green-haired boy responded cheerfully before heading down the stairs of his building and running toward the train station. He heard a familiar voice calling out to him, and upon turning around, he saw Kaken catching up. They continued to the station together and found 2 free seats once their train arrived. Kaken leaned in and whispered, asking if he wanted to see something. Eagerly, the green-haired boy agreed. Kaken shielded one side of his mouth and coughed, creating a small explosion. The boy reacted in awe, asking when Kaken discovered he could do that. Kaken explained that he had found out about his ability 3 weeks ago when he woke up in the middle of the night with an itchy throat and accidentally coughed before he could get a drink. His friend nodded in understanding and inquired if Kaken had figured out how to incorporate it into his fighting style. With a smirk, Kaken confidently affirmed that he had. Bakugo confidently declared that his new fighting style would be enough to trample Midoriya the next time they fought. Midoriya chuckled, assuring Bakugo that he would hold him to it. As they arrived at the Muzudafu train station, an automated robot announced their arrival. Both boys quickly exited the train and made their way out of the bustling station. Once outside, they headed up the hill leading to UA. After a 10-minute walk, they finally reached their new school. Midoriya complained that Bakugo's route had taken much longer than his own. Bakugo dismissed him, calling him a nerd as they walked through the school gate. Not wanting to be left behind, Midoriya hurried to catch up. Midoriya suggested they explore the school, but Bakugo vehemently disagreed, recalling a lesson from middle school. Midoriya then proposed they head straight to class but insisted they explore during lunch. Bakugo, though reluctant, agreed as long as they avoided trouble. Their friendship had grown over the years, resembling that of 2 friends who had spent every moment together. Bakugo led the way up the stairs to their classroom. Upon reaching the correct floor, they approached their classroom. Midoriya noticed the unusually large door and wondered why it was so big. Bakugo shrugged, indicating he had no idea. Midoriya took the initiative and opened the door, revealing a classroom that was only half filled. Disappointed that not everyone was present, Midoriya sulked, wishing to make his usual announcement. Bakugo, not wanting to be embarrassed, insisted that Midoriya save it for later. He settled into his seat, tossing his bag under the table and propping his feet on it. Midoriya chuckled as he took a seat behind his rival and best friend, realizing they would be sitting near each other for the next few years. The classroom filled up. A dispute broke out between Bakugo and another student. Bakugo demanded that the student remove his feet from the desk, to which the student retorted, insisting that Bakugo was sullying UA property. Bakugo's eyebrow twitched in annoyance as he threatened to roast the student alive if he didn't reveal which middle school he attended. The navy-haired student introduced himself as Tenya Ida from Semi-Private Academy, expressing pride in his background. Bakugo, unimpressed, recalled a past encounter with someone from that school, using colorful language that shocked Ida. Midoriya, sensing the tension, intervened, suggesting they all calm down. Ida recognized Midoriya as the boy from the entrance exam and complimented his impressive quirk. Bakugo dismissed the compliment, stating that Midoriya was just good at using it. As the conversation continued, a tired voice interrupted from behind. A dark-haired man, resembling a caterpillar in a cocoon, emerged from his sleeping bag, landing on the floor. He introduced himself as Shoyuta Aizawa, their teacher, and instructed everyone to meet him on the field for an assessment. Once outside, Aizawa expressed his impatience, joking that he thought he would age waiting for them. He called on Midoriya to demonstrate his abilities. Midoriya stepped forward, ready to follow Aizawa's instructions. Aizawa handed him a ball and directed him to a circle, asking him to throw it using his quirk to see how far it would go. Midoriya, slightly confused, pointed out that Aizawa's eyes were closed. Aizawa reassured him that he could see just fine, and when Midoriya attempted to test him, Aizawa swiftly caught his fist, causing Midoriya to wince in pain. Aizawa warned him not to try that again, and Midoriya quickly agreed, shaking off the discomfort. After confirming the rules, Midoriya gripped the ball tightly, pulled his arm back, and launched it into the distance. Aizawa noted the impressive distance and recorded it on his phone. The class reacted with excitement, expressing their admiration for Midoriya's quirk. Aizawa, however, added a twist to the assessment, The student who performed the worst would be expelled, prompting shock and protests from the class. Aizawa calmly explained that he had the authority to make such decisions and prioritized testing over orientation. The students quickly realized they needed to step up their game as the assessment began, with Aizawa announcing the first event, a 50-meter dash. The top 3 students were Izuku Midoriya, Katsuki Bakugo, and Tenya Ida. The next event was a grip strength test, and the competition was heating up. The top 3 students for the first event were Izuku Midoriya, Mizo Shoji, and Achiko Uraraka. The third event was the standing long jump, where the top 3 were Izuku Midoriya, Katsuki Bakugo, and Momo Yaoyorozu. For the fourth event, sidestepping, the top 3 were Minoru Mineta, Katsuki Bakugo, and Izuku Midoriya. The fifth event involved throwing, with Achiko Uraraka, Izuku Midoriya, and Momo Yaoyorozu taking the top spots. In the sixth event, long-distance running, the top 3 were Izuku Midoriya, Eijiro Kirishima, and Katsuki Bakugo. The seventh event tested upper body strength, with Izuku Midoriya, Eijiro Kirishima, and Mizo Shoji leading the way. Finally, in the seated toe-touch event, the top 3 were Izuku Midoriya, Mina Ishido, and Toru Hagakure. Once all the tests were complete, Aizawa used his phone as a projector to display the students' rankings. Izuku Midoriya topped the list, followed by Katsuki Bakugo and Momo Yaoyorozu. The remaining rankings included Shuto Todoroki, Tenya Ida, Eijiro Kirishima, Fumikage Tokoyami, Mizo Shoji, Mina Ishido, Mishiro Ojiro, Achiko Uraraka, Koji Koda, Rikido Sato, Sue Ajui, Yuga Aoyama, Denki Kaminari, Hanta Sero, Kyoka Jiro, Toru Hagakure, and Minoru Mineta. Izuku celebrated his success, while Bakugo expressed his frustration. Mineta, trembling with worry, feared he might be expelled. The other students turned to Aizawa, who wore a grin. Aizawa approached Mineta, asking him what he would do if a villain appeared at that moment. Mineta, feeling intimidated, gathered his courage and declared he would protect everyone and find a way to escape. Aizawa, satisfied with his answer, stood up and instructed everyone to change and meet back in class. Mineta, relieved, joined his classmates in changing. Once everyone was gathered, Aizawa instructed the students to introduce themselves, starting with the first seat. A blonde-haired boy stood up proudly, introducing himself as Yuga Aoyama, whose quirk was naval laser. He expressed his ambition to be a twinkly hero and his love for French movies, but his classmates were unimpressed. Next, Mina Ishido introduced herself, sharing that her quirk was acid and her goal was to bring smiles to people's faces. The class applauded her enthusiasm. The introductions continued until it was Shoto Todoroki's turn. He introduced himself, mentioning his quirk was half cold, half hot, and that he enjoyed cooking. His brief introduction surprised his classmates, but they still clapped for him. Toru Hagakure introduced herself next, sharing her quirk of invisibility and her desire to make friends. The class cheered for her. Katsuki Bakugo then stood up, declaring his name and ambition to become the world's strongest hero, accompanied by explosive displays from his quirk. The class responded with applause, acknowledging his unique personality. Finally, Izuku Midoriya jumped up, brimming with energy. He introduced himself and shared that his quirk was Gum Gum. His ambition was to become the symbol of freedom and justice, creating a happy society. His classmates found his dream inspiring, and they applauded enthusiastically. Once all the introductions were complete, Aizawa announced that school was over for the day. He reminded everyone to arrive early the next day with their school supplies. As the students prepared to leave, Izuku asked Bakugo if he wanted to go home together. Bakugo agreed, and as they exited the school, they were approached by Kirishima and Ishido, who wanted to walk home with them. Midoriya welcomed the idea, and they all headed to the train station together. "Cool, then you guys can come with us," Midoriya said with a smile. "So where are you from?" Ishido asked curiously. "Muzutafu, what about you?" Midoriya responded. "Chiba," Kirishima replied. "So you guys are only one stop behind us on the train?" Bakugo inquired, and both of them nodded. "That means we can go to school together every day." Midoriya celebrated, though Bakugo was less enthusiastic about the idea but chose to go along with it. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Ishido agreed. Alright then, it seems like we're an official group. Kirishima added. Who said we were going to be a group? Bakugo shouted. I don't mind it, Kaken, Midoriya said, trying to ease the tension. You don't make decisions for me, nerd, Bakugo stated coldly. Sure, whatever, nerd, Midoriya joked, knowing how to tease Bakugo. Who are you calling a nerd, nerd? Bakugo retorted, clearly annoyed. Midoriya had learned how to push Bakugo's buttons since middle school. You're the one who always says, I need to study, or, Izuku, you need to revise more. Training your body and studying quirks won't do you any justice if you can't answer a single math problem, Midoriya said, mimicking Bakugo's tone. Wait, you mean Bakugo is the smart one out of the two of you? Ishido laughed. Yeah. Midoriya confirmed, joining in the laughter. Izuku, I'm gonna get you. Bakugo raged, but Midoriya just chuckled. I'm just joking, chill out, he said, trying to calm Bakugo while still laughing. Whatever, Bakugo replied, rolling his eyes as he began to walk away. Don't worry guys, he's usually like this. Give him 5 minutes, and he'll be fine, Midoriya said with a laugh. A few minutes later, the group arrived at the train station. They gradually became more comfortable with each other, sharing stories and discussing their ideals. Their conversation about what it meant to be a hero was cut short when the train arrived at Midoriya and Bakugo's stop. It's our stop, let's go, Bakugo ordered. Wait, before we leave, here's my phone number. Text me, and we can make a group chat, Midoriya suggested. Kirishima took a picture of Midoriya's number and waved goodbye to him and Bakugo. See? That wasn't so bad, Midoriya teased. Yeah, whatever. They're probably the only two bearable people in the class, Bakugo replied. See? I also realized that you Shut up and walk. Bakugo yelled, cutting off Midoriya mid-sentence. It's okay, we're teens. Personally, I have no time or interest in dating right now, Midoriya said. Yeah, me neither, Bakugo agreed. You seemed pretty interested on the train. Damn it, shut up, nerd. Bakugo exclaimed, causing an explosion near Midoriya's back, forcing him to dodge. Today was fun, and now my belly is full. It was a good day, Midoriya thought as he checked his phone and saw it was 11 p.m. I think it's time to turn in for the night. He yawned, rolled over, and fell asleep moments later, wondering what tests awaited him the next day. The next day arrived, and the students of Class 1A had settled into the school nicely. Some people naturally gravitated toward each other, while others chose to keep to themselves. Our main group belonged to the former and had grown close over the past day. Lunch is going to be over in a few minutes, and you know what that means? Ishido squealed. Hero training. Hopefully I get to show off my skills, Bakugo relished. Who do you think is teaching the class? Kirishima asked. I have no idea, but whoever it is, they better be fun, Midoriya replied. I just want to show what I can do, Bakugo reaffirmed. Lunch break is over, please return to your classes, an automated voice announced. Without saying a word, the group headed to their class and took their seats. A few minutes passed, and while everyone from their class returned, their teacher was still absent. Maybe someone. I am here, coming through the door like a normal person. To everyone's surprise, their teacher for the day was All Might. All Might. Whoa, it's really him. He's so cool in person. Isn't that his Silver Age outfit? Students began to fantasize about their teacher, the #1 hero. Hello class, today we'll be doing hero basic training. This training will mold you into the perfect hero. All Might flexed. Now let's not waste any time. The activity we will be doing today is battle training. Battle training? Yes, all right. Bakugo and Midoriya cheered. Now, we couldn't possibly do hero training without hero costumes. As if on cue, the walls of the classroom opened up, revealing 20 suitcases with numbers on them. Now young ones, grab a suitcase that matches your seat number and get changed. I'll be waiting for you at Battleground Beta. 15 minutes passed, and only one student was left to arrive. Where's Midoriya? one of his classmates asked. For some reason, he had 2 outfits in his suitcase. He's probably being indecisive like usual, Bakugo replied. As the minutes went by, his classmates and All Might grew impatient, wondering where Midoriya was. After another minute of waiting, All Might was about to start the class without him when they heard the sound of sandals clacking from inside the tunnel. Sorry for the wait, everyone. Making a dramatic entrance, Midoriya flung himself out of the tunnel, soaring through the air. He's finally here. His costume looks basic but cool. You can say that again, he looks like a character straight out of a manga. Especially that straw hat. Wait, isn't that the same design as the one from that 2-piece manga? Kaminari noted as Midoriya landed. Yeah, it is, Midoriya grinned. Now that I think about it, your quirk is really similar to the main characters, Kaminari realized. More like exactly like it, Bakugo claimed. Okay class, enough about young Midoriya's outfit and quirk, let's get into today's lesson. All Might said, clearing his throat. Your suit looks so cool, Kaken, Midoriya whispered in admiration. Yeah, I wanted to go with something else, but I'll stick with this one for now, Bakugo replied. Also, why do you use 3 swords now? Bakugo smirked, curious about Midoriya's new technique. You'll find out later, Midoriya replied, a hint of mystery in his voice. As their conversation wrapped up, All Might stepped forward to explain the day's lesson. Today's lesson will be heroes versus villains. All Might announced with enthusiasm. The villains will have to hold a bomb that the heroes need to recover. The exercise will take place indoors and you will be timed. The students erupted with questions, overwhelming All Might. Alright. Let me explain it further and answer your questions. As Midoriya entered the spectator room, his classmates cheered for him. He smiled, grateful for their support. How you managed to win against Bakugo is beyond me, especially since he is your natural rival, Sero commented, impressed. I won because I understand his fighting style. His 3-sword technique and explosive swords were new, but most of his moves were familiar to me, Midoriya explained, adjusting the straw hat on his head. Alright, enough chit-chat. Can one of you tell me who the MVP was? All Might asked, eager to hear the students' thoughts. Can I share, sir? Yayorozu volunteered. Go ahead. All Might encouraged. The MVP of that match was Midoriya for capturing both villains and securing the bomb. He also supported his teammate with solid advice, she stated confidently. Yeah, that's correct. I would also like to congratulate young Uraraka for being a great teammate. Not many heroes listen to their partner's instructions, All Might added. Oh, and young Ilda too, you did a fantastic job as a villain. Ilda bowed in appreciation at the praise. Thank you, sir, he replied. Sir, how badly is Bakugo hurt? Midoriya asked with concern. Recovery girl said he has a concussion, but don't worry, it'll be gone in a few hours, All Might reassured him. Okay, thank you, sir, Midoriya sighed in relief. Now class, on to the next match. All Might reached into the box and pulled out 2 letters. Team B will be the heroes and Team I will be the villains. Both teams quickly left the room to prepare. And begin. Todoroki took a deep breath as the announcement rang out. Stay behind and support me with your extra pair of eyes, he instructed Shoji coldly as they entered the building. Shoji nodded, ready to assist. I can also use my ears if needed, Shoji suggested. Use them too, I want to make this quick and easy. As they ascended to the top floor, Todoroki's instincts kicked in. Remember, one of them is invisible, we could be ambushed, he noted. Wait, in front of you. Shoji alerted Todoroki, having detected Hakigura's quiet footsteps before she could approach. Sorry, I don't like hitting women, Todoroki said as he skillfully tripped her up. But kicking a man is fine with me. He executed a powerful roundhouse kick aimed at Ojiro, who barely managed to dodge. Ouch! Ojiro winced as he stumbled against the wall. Stay down, Todoroki commanded, placing his foot on Ojiro's stomach, freezing him in place. I've cuffed Hagakure, Shoji announced. Good, now we can secure the bomb. As they moved toward it, Their classmates watched in awe at Todoroki's display of skill. "Whoa, did you see that kick?" Kirishima exclaimed, amazed. "Yeah, that was super strong," another classmate agreed. Soon after, Todoroki touched the bomb. "The hero team wins," All Might declared. When both teams returned to the room, All Might repeated the process for the next hour and a half as Class A battled amongst themselves. "Now that Team E and H have finished, it's time to end today's lesson," All Might announced. "Today was really fun," many students commented. "I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Anyway, I must attend to urgent business. Remember to get changed and return to your class to return your costumes," All Might said as he hurried off. After leaving the class, All Might rushed to the infirmary to check on Bakugo. Upon arrival, he found Bakugo awake and seemingly fine, while Recovery Girl was busy with her paperwork. "Oh, you're already awake?" All Might said, approaching Bakugo. "Yeah, I am," Bakugo replied, his expression revealing a hint of sadness that caught All Might's attention. "What's wrong, young Bakugo?" All Might asked, genuinely curious. I just can't win," Bakugo admitted, a tear escaping down his cheek. "Every time we fight, he always wins. It's been like that since middle school." He gripped his sword tightly, frustration evident in his voice. "I thought my new technique would be enough, but even then, he beat me." All Might and Recovery Girl exchanged concerned glances. Trying to comfort him, All Might pulled up a chair and rubbed Bakugo's back. "I heard your dream is to become the strongest hero," he said calmly. Bakugo replied, wiping his tears. "If you want to become the strongest, you must have someone or something to drive you. Seeing how distraught you are right now, I can tell you have a conqueror's ambition. Don't worry, Bakugo, I can already confirm that you are one of the strongest. Now it's up to you to go that extra mile and become the strongest or one of the strongest." All Might's words resonated with Bakugo, and his tears began to dry. "Yeah, you're right. Izuku may be stronger than me now, but I want to be stronger. I want to be the strongest hero, and that means I have to surpass you too, All Might," he declared with newfound determination. "With a quirk like yours and a lot more training, I can see it becoming a reality," All Might responded, flashing Bakugo his signature smile. "Thank you, All Might." As All Might prepared to leave, Bakugo stopped him with a question. "All Might, do you know why Aizawa never opens his eyes?" This inquiry surprised All Might, who turned back to face Bakugo. "For now, you don't need to know, but in the near future, you'll understand why," he replied before exiting the room. Shortly after, Bakugo was released and walked back to his class, a bandage wrapped around his head but a renewed sense of purpose in his heart. Although Recovery Girl did her best to stop the bleeding immediately, it would take an extra day for Bakugo to fully heal. Midoriya waved as he noticed his friend. Kirishima rushed over to check on Bakugo, asking if he was okay. Bakugo replied that he felt tired as he grabbed his bag and ordered everyone to head home. Ashido tapped his shoulder, prompting Bakugo to bluntly ask what she wanted. She complimented him on how cool he looked earlier, causing him to freeze in embarrassment. After regaining his composure, he walked ahead of her. Meanwhile, Midoriya and Kirishima debated who would win in a fight among their classmates. Kirishima placed his bets on Tokoyami, while Midoriya argued that Tokoyami would struggle against Todoroki unless he could overpower him with Dark Shadow. Kirishima insisted that Tokoyami's shadow was impressive, but Midoriya countered that Todoroki could easily freeze it. The conversation escalated, with Bakugo suddenly turning around, demanding to know who thought they could beat him. Kirishima mentioned Todoroki, and Bakugo dismissed the idea, though Kirishima maintained that Todoroki had shown great skill. Ashido chimed in, suggesting they hadn't seen Todoroki face anyone particularly strong yet. Midoriya agreed that time would reveal the truth. The next day, the class waited for their teacher to arrive. A few students volunteered to search for him, but he eventually appeared, yawning. He informed the class that they had 20 minutes to choose a class representative and a vice representative. As he settled into his sleeping bag, Ilda stood up to speak, but Ashido interrupted, urging everyone to vote for her. Aoyama joined in, and soon everyone was advocating for themselves. After a few minutes, Ilda proposed a solution, an anonymous vote where no one could vote for themselves. Kaminari supported the idea, suggesting they write down their choices and place them in a box. Yaoyorozu quickly created a box for the votes. Once the voting began, everyone cast their votes until there were none left. Ilda announced the results. Midoriya received 5 votes, Yaoyorozu received 2, and the rest of the class received 1 each. Midoriya accepted his role as class representative, while Ilda expressed his disappointment. Yaoyorozu commented on Ilda's lack of enthusiasm, and he wished Midoriya and Yaoyorozu good luck before returning to his seat. Midoriya was curious about who had voted for him, and Ishido and Kirishima admitted their votes. He scanned the room and noticed Bakugo and Uraraka's reactions. Bakugo denied voting for him, but Midoriya found it amusing. Just then, the school bell rang, signaling the start of lunch. As they entered the lunch hall, Ishido remarked on the crowd, while Kirishima noted that it hadn't been so packed the day before. Bakugo suggested it was due to the cooking hero, and Midoriya agreed as he sat next to Ishido. She jokingly asked what his first move as class rep would be, to which he sheepishly admitted he had no idea. She reassured him that he would figure it out, explaining that the role wasn't too demanding. Midoriya agreed, and they continued their conversation until a loud alarm interrupted them. An automated voice announced that security level 3 had been breached and instructed all students to evacuate in an orderly fashion. Kirishima asked a senior what that meant, and the senior explained that it indicated a break-in. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the group made their way to the exit but got caught in a massive crowd of students. They lost sight of each other in the chaos. Midoriya found himself pressed against a window due to the crowd's pushing. Looking outside, he saw that the commotion was caused by interviewers and cameramen arguing with his teachers. Taking charge, Midoriya replicated a move he had used against Bakugo, puncturing the ceiling with his fingers and pulling himself up. Once above the crowd, he stretched his arm to grab the exit sign and pulled himself up. Standing on top of the sign, he cleared his throat and shouted for everyone's attention, assuring them that the situation wasn't as dire as it seemed. He urged everyone to look outside, revealing that it was just the press. One by one, students turned to the window, realizing he was right. Realizing the situation wasn't as serious as it seemed, the students began to cheer for Midoriya or leave the area. One of his classmates expressed excitement about their class representative. After a few minutes, the hall cleared enough for Midoriya to jump down and join his friends to enjoy the rest of their lunch. As the school day came to an end, the students made their way home, discussing the incident and how loud Midoriya had been. The teachers, however, were less pleased. A small white creature remarked that no ordinary reporter could have caused such a stir. A woman in a spacesuit agreed, suggesting they were under attack from an unknown force. The creature emphasized the need to tighten security and prepare the students for potential danger as it walked back onto the school grounds. Meanwhile, in a rundown bar, 2 men were plotting their next move. One scruffy man smiled as he mentioned that they had successfully obtained the teacher's timetable, indicating they would soon meet All Might. The other, dressed in a cloudy suit, confirmed that everything was ready and they just needed to wait. In a tense moment, a blonde hero noted that the villain's neck was too tough to break through. The villain threatened the family, declaring that they would be in danger if anyone came closer. Just then, All Might appeared in a flash, delivering a powerful strike to the back of the villain's neck. With the family now safe and the villain subdued, he proclaimed that he was simply on his morning commute, flashing a smile at the crowd and nearby heroes. While the crowd cheered for All Might, the other heroes expressed their frustration, stating that his actions had caused more trouble than help. Once the family and the villain were in police custody, All Might departed, eager not to be late for school. As he leaped from building to building, he reflected on how his speed seemed to have diminished slightly. Despite this, he reassured himself that he was still comparable to his prime and had little to worry about for now. On the bus, Midoriya relaxed in his seat, pleased that getting everyone on board had been easier than expected. Bakugo, seated nearby, commented on their age, suggesting it would be embarrassing if they couldn't manage it. He soon fell asleep, hugging his swords. Todoroki, with his half-red and white hair, questioned why he had to sit next to Midoriya. Midoriya innocently replied that he wanted to talk. Curiosity piqued, Todoroki asked what Midoriya wanted to know. Midoriya began to inquire about Todoroki's quirk, asking how it worked and whether it was limited to just one side. Todoroki dismissed the questions, stating that Midoriya would figure it out in time. Midoriya then teased him about being cold, to which Todoroki retorted that he was not cold to everyone, just to Midoriya. Midoriya proposed that if Ishido asked Todoroki questions, he would answer them. Todoroki smirked and said it was a possibility. Midoriya then concluded that Todoroki didn't hit women and only gave them answers, calling him a simp. This prompted Todoroki to grab Midoriya's collar, insisting that being a gentleman was not the same as being a simp, which he humorously defined as simply indescribable masculine perfection. Aizawa warned them to calm down, while Bakugo, yawning, inquired about the commotion. Midoriya explained that Todoroki was a simp, which amused Bakugo. Todoroki defended himself, claiming he valued women, while Bakugo laughed, calling him delusional. The playful banter continued until an automated voice announced their arrival at their destination, prompting Midoriya to separate the two. After settling in, the class entered a massive facility where they were greeted by the pro-hero. She welcomed Class 1A and explained the various disaster zones the facility contained, showcasing its purpose as a training ground for heroes. Midoriya expressed curiosity about the name of the facility, and Mina shrugged off the concern about its connection to a studio. While 13 explained her quirk, Midoriya excitedly interrupted, acknowledging her impressive track record of saving people. 13 confirmed that her quirk, called Black Hole, could be dangerous if not handled carefully, and she emphasized the importance of monitoring quirks in society due to their potential for harm. Several students nodded in understanding as she continued to elaborate on the responsibilities that came with their abilities. During Aizawa's physical test, the potential of each student's quirk became evident. In All Might's battle training, they experienced the true capabilities of their quirks when facing another human. Aizawa emphasized that their abilities were meant for saving lives, hoping to inspire the class to use their quirks for good. 13 bowed in acknowledgement. Jiro remarked on the impact of Aizawa's speech, while Ilda applauded. Midoriya, Ishido, and Uraraka expressed their admiration for 13's abilities. Suddenly, Aizawa commanded everyone to be on guard as a portal opened in the facility. He instructed 13 to protect the students while he confronted the incoming threat. For the first time, the class witnessed Aizawa's intense, cold red eyes. Midoriya murmured about Aizawa's identity as Eraserhead, but Bakugo snapped him back to focus by tapping his shoulder. Aizawa warned them that the figures emerging from the portal were villains, granting permission to use their quirks for self-defense. The seriousness of the situation prompted the class to assume fighting stances. In the plaza, a rough-looking man and a figure with a misty portal exchanged words. The man expressed confusion about All Might's absence, growing increasingly agitated. He suggested that perhaps harming students would draw All Might out, his tone becoming more erratic. As villains began to fill the plaza, Aizawa approached them, realizing the extent of the threat when a monstrous figure emerged from the portal. Despite a shiver of fear, he steeled himself and charged at the villains. He swiftly subdued one with his scarf, slamming him into another villain, and remarked on their tendency to talk too much. Aizawa dodged attacks with agility, delivering precise and powerful strikes. One villain noted Aizawa's proficiency in armament, acknowledging his high observational skills. Kirishima admired Aizawa's prowess, while Ilda urged the class to stay focused. Kurogiri, a villain, introduced the League of Villains and their mission to eliminate All Might, despite his absence. Just then, All Might arrived, bringing a wave of relief to the students. He praised 13 for their efforts before instructing them to rest. With a commanding presence, All Might declared war on the villains, unleashing his will. Many low-level villains fell unconscious, while the students felt a surge of strength. All Might then turned his attention to Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu, recognizing the threat they posed. Shigaraki reveled in the opportunity to confront All Might. In a flash, All Might rescued Midoriya from the Nomu's grasp, encouraging him to relax while he handled the situation. Midoriya, determined to fight, inadvertently released his will, surprising All Might. All Might expressed pride in Midoriya's growth, insisting he rest. He then focused on the Nomu, declaring his intent to confront it first. As he charged, Kurogiri attempted to intervene with a portal, but All Might swiftly countered, causing Shigaraki to wince in pain. With a powerful shout, All Might unleashed a Detroit smash, pushing the Nomu back. He taunted the creature, noting its purpose was to defeat him. The battle escalated as All Might unleashed a flurry of punches, barely fazed by the Nomu's counterattacks. He challenged the villain to surrender, asserting that he had yet to unleash his full power. Despite the Nomu's lack of emotion, it retaliated, landing a hit on All Might's back. All Might acknowledged the impact but remained unfazed, asserting that the Nomu's attempts to overpower him would not succeed. He seized the opportunity to counter, breaking the Nomu's hold and preparing for the next phase of their confrontation. Not allowing All Might to dictate the pace of the fight, the Nomu rushed in first, throwing a barrage of punches that All Might effortlessly evaded. Waiting for the right opportunity, All Might ducked under one of the Nomu's punches and embraced it. Once the Nomu was in All Might's grasp, he hurled it into the sky and then joined it, delivering a powerful strike that sent the creature crashing back to the ground. Performing a cannonball roll in the air, All Might flipped his body so that his head was pointing toward the ground. As he began to descend, he extended both arms in front of him, mimicking how a superhero would fly, and rocketed into the Nomu's body. As All Might collided with the Nomu, a few more people arrived at the scene: Bakugo, Aizawa, Todoroki, and Kirishima. They were all pushed back by the force of the impact but were amazed at the power All Might displayed. Kirishima pointed out that All Might seemed to be having fun, while Aizawa noted that it had been a while since All Might had been able to unleash his full strength against a villain like this. Instead of contributing to the conversation, Todoroki scanned the area for any escaping villains. During his search, he noticed a familiar green-haired boy lying unconscious on the ground. Without the others realizing, Todoroki swiftly made his way over, picked the boy up, and returned. By the time he got back, All Might and the Nomu had only just regained their footing. Kirishima smirked, sensing that the fight was about to resume. Aizawa, also smirking, mentioned that he could erase the Nomu's quirk but saw no need since All Might had it under control. Suddenly, he noticed Todoroki carrying Midoriya over his shoulders. Bakugo and Kirishima looked at their injured friend, anger rising within them as they examined the bruises and cuts on his body. Bakugo squinted, expressing his frustration at how badly Midoriya had been hurt, while Kirishima vowed to find the villain responsible for it. Aizawa managed to calm them down, reminding them that Midoriya would be fine. As the fight reignited, both All Might and the Nomu charged at each other, creating another massive shockwave that pushed everyone back. All Might declared that if the Nomu still wanted to fight, he would handle it properly. Yellow sparks began to fly from All Might's hands, leaving Kirishima in awe as he realized that All Might had a unique ability. Aizawa explained that it was called Haki, an advanced version of a rare type. All Might drew his fist back and threw a punch that, while missing the Nomu, created a significant impact that left a hole in the ground. In disbelief, everyone watched as All Might's power and speed were revealed to be on another level. The students were not just amazed by the power but by the incredible speed of the punch, which was too fast for their eyes to track. When All Might stepped back, the Nomu screeched and began to regenerate. Once the Nomu was fully healed, All Might allowed it to rush him, dodging every punch thrown his way. Wherever the Nomu targeted, it missed. All Might mocked the creature, claiming that it couldn't defeat him even if he used half of his power. After allowing the Nomu to continue its offensive for a few more seconds, All Might caught its hand with his palm and squeezed, crushing it. He declared that he had had enough fun and it was time to end the show. By now, everyone in the facility was watching the fight, having no enemies to deal with. Ping his fist back, All Might's right hand began to emit yellow sparks as he shouted a motivational phrase for his students before delivering a powerful overhand right that sent the Nomu crashing into the ground. A certain scruffy man screamed in frustration, rushing toward All Might in anger. However, Kurogiri reminded him not to let his anger control him and warped Shigaraki away, warning All Might that they would meet again soon. Kirishima celebrated the victory, while Bakugo acknowledged that he had a lot of training ahead of him to become stronger. Todoroki agreed, noting that becoming the world's most feared hero would also be a challenge. Aizawa grinned, respecting All Might's power and emphasizing the importance of true heroism. Standing over the unconscious Nomu, All Might flexed his muscles and laughed, expressing his enjoyment of the battle. He grabbed the Nomu by its foot and dragged it toward Aizawa and his students. Bakugo grimaced, concerned about whether the creature would wake up and attack them, but Aizawa reassured him that he and All Might would handle it if necessary. As they made their way to the staircase, the heroes from UA swarmed the building. Midnight announced their arrival, and Aizawa instructed her to call the police, confirming that they had already taken care of the situation. Meanwhile, Shigaraki slammed his fist onto a table in frustration, lamenting his failure. A voice from a monitor reminded him to stay calm, explaining that while they had lost this battle, the war was not over. Shigaraki described All Might's overwhelming speed and power, noting that it felt as if he had grown even stronger. The voice theorized that All Might had started using Haki for defense, a tactic he previously reserved for truly dangerous opponents, and mentioned that Shigaraki's arm was broken. It promised to send a Nomu with a healing quirk to assist him. The Nomu that was provided was merely a training dummy. Now that its weaknesses had been revealed, they could devise a proper strategy to defeat it. Shigaraki expressed his gratitude, promising that he would not let his master down in the future. The voice reassured him, emphasizing that he could never disappoint. Then the connection was severed. A few days had passed since the USJ incident, and Midoriya decided to take a long walk to reflect on his first 2 weeks at UA. He felt stronger, squeezing his almost recovered fist as he walked closer to a familiar beach. After a few minutes, he arrived and was surprised that his body had led him here, but he didn't question it. He continued until he reached a familiar bench, where he met someone special to him. Himiko turned to him, tears streaming down her face. Midoriya, confused, noticed her disheveled appearance. She rushed over and embraced him tightly. He asked what was wrong, noticing the dirt and a hint of something else on her clothes. She confessed that she had done something really bad, and when he pressed for details, she hesitated. Midoriya wrapped his arms around her again, trying to comfort her. Himiko revealed that she had hurt a few people, but insisted they deserved it. Midoriya's expression turned serious as he asked how badly she had hurt them. She muttered that it was really bad, bracing for his reaction. She explained that she had seen him hurt on the news, which made her furious. When her parents yelled at her, she lost control and hurt them too. Realizing what she had done, she felt she had no choice but to run away and had been waiting for him at the beach for 2 days. Midoriya was shocked but masked his feelings. He hugged her tightly, assuring her it was his fault for getting hurt, which had triggered her reaction. He suggested they go to his house so she could clean up and eat. Himiko hesitated, concerned about his parents being home, but Midoriya reassured her that his mother was away for the weekend. Reluctantly, she agreed, and they made their way to his place. Once they arrived, she quickly took a bath. Afterward, she realized she had no clothes to wear, but fortunately, she was the same size as Midoriya's mother. When she asked if she could borrow something, he encouraged her to just put it on, assuring her that his mother wouldn't notice. Once dressed in a pink hoodie, a miniskirt, and a white t-shirt, they enjoyed a meal of katsudon, one of Midoriya's favorites. After dinner, they watched a movie together. As the night wore on, Midoriya fell asleep, leaving Himiko awake and alone. She contemplated leaving, feeling she had been a hindrance. She thought about how it wouldn't be good for an aspiring hero to be associated with someone like her. With a heavy heart, she whispered her love for him and wished him the best. She kissed him softly on the lips, hoping they would never meet again, fearing that if they did, she would be too far gone for him to accept her. With that, she quietly left, saying goodbye forever. The next day, Aizawa gathered the class, announcing an important event. He explained that UA would host a sports festival the following week, despite the usual notice being disrupted by recent events. When a student inquired about the infiltration incident, Aizawa mentioned they had held a meeting to discuss it but could not share details. As the class exchanged thoughts, Aizawa noted that he had his eyes open, which surprised some of the students. He then shifted the conversation to All Might's unusual ability, prompting a discussion about Haki. Aizawa prepared to explain the three basic types of Haki: armament Haki, which enhances one's skin to be as tough as steel; observation Haki, which allows one to sense opponents and predict their actions; and Conqueror's Haki, a rare ability only accessible to a select few. He emphasized the importance of understanding these abilities, especially observation Haki, which he specialized in. The class listened intently, eager to learn more about this intriguing aspect of their training. Conqueror's Haki allows one to impose their will on others, and if their will is significantly weaker, it can lead to them losing consciousness. Aizawa concluded the first part of his explanation. Kaminari questioned what was so special about Conqueror's Haki, suggesting that it didn't seem as useful as the others. Aizawa explained that users of Conqueror's Haki have more potential than those who do not possess it, and as All Might demonstrated, it can be effective in incapacitating an entire facility full of people. Uraraka wondered if the wave of pressure she felt when All Might first arrived was related to Conqueror's Haki. Aizawa confirmed this and smiled, indicating that there was a student among them who possessed this ability. Midoriya, surprised, pointed to himself as he realized it was him. Aizawa continued, discussing how to unlock Haki. It can be activated by focusing one's will, which is the essence of Haki, a manifestation of willpower and spiritual energy. Traumatic experiences can also trigger its activation. Midoriya was a prime example, as the situation he faced led him to unlock his Conqueror's Haki. Izuku reflected on his experience during battle, noting that he felt as if he was applying pressure to everything around him. Aizawa affirmed this and moved on to the advanced versions of Haki. He explained that mastering Haki could lead to tapping into its higher forms. Advanced armament Haki focuses on enhancing weapons, making them harder and allowing users like Bakugo, who utilize weapons, to learn this skill for greater strength. It also enables one to negate skin durability and channel Haki through objects to destroy them. Aizawa emphasized its importance for boosting both offense and defense, recommending it to Bakugo, Kirishima, and Yaoyorozu. Advanced observation Haki grants the ability to see into the future. Aizawa shared that he had mastered this skill, which allowed him to anticipate events even with his eyes closed. He had minimized the cooldown PRD through years of training. He recommended this ability to Todoroki, Ida, and Uraraka, noting that everyone would benefit, but those three would gain the most. Advanced Conqueror's Haki amplifies one's current Haki, causing sparks to emit from weapons or fists. This ability is rare, and Aizawa suggested that Midoriya pursue it, while reiterating that everyone would benefit from it. Todoroki inquired about how to unlock Conqueror's Haki. Aizawa explained that it requires a kingly ambition or an inherited strong will. He noted that while some believe it to be genetic, Todoroki's ambition was strong enough to qualify him. He speculated that both Todoroki and Bakugo were likely to unlock it, with Kirishima and Tokoyami as potential candidates. Aizawa advised that if they achieved it, they should aim for advanced Conqueror's Haki, as it could set them apart in reaching their goals. Kirishima pointed out that Haki was rarely discussed, mentioning his unsuccessful search for information after the USJ incident. Aizawa explained that the governing body had kept Haki hidden to prevent civilians from causing harm. Although rumors could spread, they often became distorted over time. Bakugo questioned if only hero institutions and high-level villains were aware of Haki's full potential, to which Aizawa confirmed. With no further questions from the class, Aizawa smiled and reminded them to use the week and a few days for training wisely before dismissing them. Later, Toshinori waved at Midoriya as he entered the underground training facility. Midoriya expressed his determination to train his quirk and access Haki again. Toshinori asked if he had made any improvements, and Midoriya nodded enthusiastically, ready to demonstrate. He revealed a technique he had been working on, calling it Gear Second. As smoke emitted from his body and his skin turned red, he playfully warned Toshinori to use his observation Haki to keep up. Midoriya darted around the room, showcasing his impressive speed, which left Toshinori impressed. Once he felt Toshinori had seen enough, Midoriya transitioned to his next technique, Gear Third. His arm inflated, surprising Toshinori, who chuckled at the sight. Midoriya then demonstrated his power with a mighty strike, declaring, "Gum gum, giant pistol," as he sent his fist crashing into a dummy, completely obliterating it. "That was cool, right?" A tiny Izuku laughed, filled with excitement. His master joined in the laughter but noted the seriousness of the situation. The drawbacks of Izuku's abilities were significant. Both of Izuku's forms had their challenges, but he believed he could overcome them with proper training. As Toshinori picked up his tiny student and placed him on his shoulder, he asked about those drawbacks. Gear 2 pumped Izuku's blood rapidly, causing him to turn red and emit smoke. However, it also had the unfortunate effect of shortening his lifespan. Toshinori, concerned, urged him to use it sparingly. Izuku reassured him that he was working on managing it, playfully reminding Toshinori that he had inspired this technique. Toshinori was puzzled by how he had inspired Izuku. The young hero explained that he had taken the idea from Toshinori's muscular form, mimicking the way he flexed. Toshinori nodded, understanding now. As Izuku prepared to demonstrate his third gear, he began to grow. He leapt off Toshinori's shoulder, excited to show off his ability to inflate his body. Toshinori asked if he had inspired this technique as well, but Izuku shook his head, admitting that Tsu had suggested it, which had initially made him feel foolish. Toshinori removed his jumper to reveal a tank top. Grinning as he flexed his arm, he announced that he would be teaching Izuku how to use Haki over the next week and a half. When Izuku unlocked Haki, he would be able to see it manifest on others, whether they were using conquerors or armament. Izuku noticed a faint black tint on Toshinori's arm and learned that it would become clearer as he mastered the technique. Toshinori explained that despite his slimmer form, he was still strong. They focused on visualizing Izuku's will enveloping his arm during their training. After a week and a half of hard work, Izuku felt significantly stronger, both mentally and physically, and was ready for the sports festival. He declared his readiness for UA, filled with determination. On the day of the sports festival, excitement filled the air. In Class A's locker room, two ambitious boys stared each other down. Todoroki declared his intention to defeat Midoriya, who retorted that it would be difficult if Todoroki only planned to use half of his quirk. Todoroki coldly warned him not to complain when he lost and turned to leave. Bakugo, not wanting to be overlooked, grabbed Todoroki's shoulder, reminding him that he was also a contender. Todoroki scoffed, dismissing Bakugo's presence. Bakugo assured him that he would have his swords ready for the third round, grinning confidently. Kirishima, curious about Todoroki's demeanor, asked what was bothering him. Bakugo explained that Todoroki's ambition was to be the best. Kirishima, determined, expressed his own desire to win, earning Bakugo's approval. Midoriya, filled with enthusiasm, rallied his friends, dragging them out of the locker room. Meanwhile, All Might was patrolling the stadium grounds for any suspicious activity when he spotted MT Lady and Kamui Woods. He called out to them, eager to see them. Kamui Woods apologized for the delay, hinting at MT Lady's distraction with the media. All Might reassured her, then reminded them to stay vigilant before sprinting away. Once at a safe distance, All Might reverted to his base form, contemplating meeting young Midoriya before the matches began. He admired his reflection, noting his improved physique and the way his hair was starting to stand up again, hopeful that he could continue hero work even after One for All was gone. As he exited the bathroom, he encountered Endeavor, who coldly acknowledged him. Toshinori felt a wave of anxiety. He couldn't let Endeavor see him in his weakened state. Endeavor pointed out Toshinori's hair, prompting him to quickly retreat to fix it. When he returned as All Might, he thanked Endeavor for the reminder, who shrugged off the encounter and moved on. Finally, Toshinori encouraged Midoriya, expressing his confidence in the young hero. Izuku promised to make him proud and dashed down the corridor to join his classmates, ready to face the challenges ahead. Yayazora questioned the broccoli-haired boy, wondering if he had gotten lost. Midoriya smiled and explained that he had just taken a bathroom break. She informed him that they were about to be called out, so he should get prepared. Midoriya smiled back at her, appreciating her support. Their duo was an unusual one, but it worked well. Midoriya was an extroverted leader, always energetic, while Yaezora was an introverted support, always aware of what was happening around them. They complemented each other's strengths and weaknesses perfectly. Present Mike announced over the intercom for all first-year classes to make their way to the arena. Immediately, the entire class left their activities and headed down the corridor. As they approached the arena, Midoriya stopped to give a pep talk. He wanted everyone to know that from that moment on, they were rivals, encouraging them to strive for their best and win. His enthusiasm earned smiles from his classmates, and he rallied them with a spirited call to action. After 15 minutes, Midnight concluded her explanation of the sports festival and its traditions. She announced the official start of the festival and called for the first-year representative to come to the stage. When no one stepped forward, she called out for Izuku Midoriya, who quickly responded by using his quirk to pull himself onto the stage. Once there, he smiled at Midnight, who blushed and waved back at him. Midnight quietly remarked to herself about how cute he was, but Midoriya, oblivious to her admiration, focused on the microphone, testing it to see if it worked. When he confirmed it was on, Midnight asked if he had any encouraging words for his classmates or the crowd. Midoriya took a moment to think before declaring that they should have fun fighting for second place. His comments sparked an uproar among the audience, and Yaezora shook her head, realizing Midoriya had stirred everyone up. Bakugo commented on Midoriya's nature, while Todoroki agreed he would have done the same. Midnight applauded Midoriya for getting everyone excited and announced that it was time to spin the wheel, which landed on the obstacle race. Midnight explained that the obstacle race was a 4-kilometer challenge with few restrictions, cautioning the students not to go off course. As the students got into position, Present Mike interrupted to check the microphone, confirming it was working. With that, Midnight signaled the start of the race, and every student rushed toward the tunnel, using their quirks to gain an advantage. Midoriya stretched his arms, grabbing the top of the tunnel to propel himself above the crowd, quickly reaching the end before most had even made it halfway. As he approached the first obstacle, Midoriya noted the return of the robots. He prepared himself and announced his move, using his quirk to take down the first robot, clearing his path. Present Mike commented on Midoriya's impressive lead, while Aizawa expressed his expectations for the young hero. Midoriya soon encountered the infamous 0-point robot, and instead of fighting, he dodged its attacks and used its head to propel himself into the air. Present Mike was amazed, announcing Midoriya's aerial maneuver, while Aizawa expressed pride in his students' creativity and potential. As Midoriya began to descend, he prepared for a safe landing by inflating himself with air to cushion the fall. Just as he passed the first obstacle, Bakugo and Todoroki arrived, determined to catch up. Present Mike built suspense for the audience, highlighting the promising abilities of both students. Just before Midoriya touched the ground, he released the trapped air, ensuring a safe landing as he continued on his path. "Okay, what's next?" he asked, sprinting toward the next obstacle. "Ladies and gentlemen, it seems Izuku Midoriya has reached the second obstacle. I wonder how he will use his unique ability to overcome this challenge." After arriving at the obstacle, Midoriya contemplated the quickest way to get past it. The ending has bars I could grab, but there are pillars blocking my way. I know what to do." With determination, Midoriya began to leap from pillar to pillar, utilizing his flexible body to assist him. Once he reached the largest pillar, he grasped the bars on each end and propelled himself forward. "That was easy," he chuckled, dashing toward the final obstacle. And just like that, he cleared the second obstacle. Izuku Midoriya might be on his way to breaking All Might's famous record of 1 minute and 47 seconds. The clock is ticking, and he only has 25 seconds left. Hearing this announcement, Midoriya felt a surge of energy and quickened his pace, reaching the last obstacle. "I won't let him beat me," Bakugo shouted as he launched himself toward the second obstacle. "I won't accept second place," Todoroki thought, employing his ice in a creative way to increase his speed. But don't just focus on Midoriya, everyone. Look at his 2 classmates behind him, who are about to reach the second stage. Present Mike exclaimed. I have to catch up, I can't let those two take all the attention. Kirishima yelled, bursting out of a robot. I agree. Ashido added, kicking a robot aside to clear her path. More students felt invigorated as they dismantled their respective robots to advance to the next obstacle. Returning to Midoriya, he was navigating through the minefield, triggering a mine or two as he ran. Is there a way to get there faster? He wondered. Wait, I know. He halted, inhaling deeply. Okay, let's go. Gum gum, belly flop. He shouted, landing on a bed of mines that propelled him toward the finish line. Okay, last move, he noted, turning midair. Gum gum, exhale. Releasing all the trapped air in his system, he soared past the end of the last obstacle and landed on the ground. Get up, let's go, he urged himself, quickly getting back on his feet and racing toward the exit. He does not disappoint. Izuku Midoriya has finished the final obstacle and is now on his way to crossing the finish line. Present Mike announced. I'm almost there, Midoriya murmured as he entered the tunnel. After running for a few seconds, he began to see the light, and before long, Izuku Midoriya has crossed the finish line with an astonishing time of 2 minutes and 3 seconds. An angry blonde cursed loudly, frustrated with his own performance. Next to him was a boy with half-white and half-red hair, who wore a troubled expression. How did he finish so quickly? He muttered, pushing himself to run faster than ever before. Behind him, many of his peers followed closely, determined not to be left behind. It seems Izuku Midoriya has fired everyone up. Present Mike announced, eliciting a massive cheer from the crowd. As Bakugo and Todoroki approached the tunnel, they heard a loud explosion behind them. Kirishima? They exclaimed in surprise. Look out! Kirishima warned as he soared in with the shield. I have to beat him, Bakugo scoffed, continuing his charge toward the tunnel. And boom! Kirishima yelled, slamming his shield into the ground, propelling himself past the two boys. Extra hardening goes a long way, he laughed as he deactivated his quirk. And look here, Ejiro Kirishima has surpassed Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki with his master plan. With his great hardening quirk, he's able to take dangerous risks like this. Present Mike announced, jumping up from his seat in excitement. Get back here, you spiky bee! Bakugo yelled while Todoroki sighed. It seems Kirishima has unlocked it, Aizawa commented, earning respect from every hero in attendance or watching. Although it's the most basic and common one, he's done it. Present Mike declared, leaving the crowd even more puzzled. Cough it up, spiky hair. Tell me how you did it. Bakugo shouted, chasing after Kirishima. I'll tell you once I claim second place. Kirishima laughed as he entered the tunnel. Come back here. Bakugo exclaimed, rocketing himself toward Kirishima to land an attack. No fighting, Todoroki reminded Bakugo, using his ice to block Bakugo's path. Why do you care? Bakugo asked, shifting his focus to fourth place. I'm doing it because I want to fight you later and show you that you're not on my or Midoriya's level, Shoto explained, taking Bakugo's third place spot. Oh yeah? We'll see about that, Katsuki grinned, intensifying his explosions. Look here folks. It looks like second, third, and fourth are about to arrive. Let's see who comes in second place. Present Mike announced, building suspense. As the three students made their way through the tunnel, their positions kept changing. But in the end, only one could claim second place. In second place, we have Ejiro Kirishima. Present Mike cheered, thrilled that the spiky-haired student overcame the two prodigies. Woohoo! Kirishima celebrated, jumping in the air as he exited the tunnel. We're not done yet, folks, because in third place, we have Shoto Todoroki. The DJ hero exclaimed. Where's Bakugo? Their teacher asked, curious about the whereabouts of his student, who had been in second just moments ago. I'm right here. Bakugo shouted, bursting out of the tunnel with an angry expression. You half and half bee, why did you block me with a wall of ice? He ranted, approaching the stoic Todoroki. I don't know what you mean, Todoroki replied coolly, creating another ice wall between himself and Bakugo. And in fourth place, we have Katsuki Bakugo. He seems to be having an argument with his classmate, Present Mike observed, bemused by the situation. As time passed, more students arrived and claimed their positions. Meanwhile, our protagonist was being entertained by the versatile hero Midnight. So, what's it like being a hero with your type of quirk? I would have expected you to be a stealth hero, Izuku asked her, munching on some snacks his teacher had given him. It's alright. I'm a versatile support, so I'm on a lot of missions. An old friend had once suggested that she become a stealth hero too, but she found it lonely and sometimes quite intense. She smiled, appreciating her students' interest in her experiences. Midoriya expressed his belief that she would be perfect for his future hero agency, which made her blush. She felt like she would be too old by then, thinking she would be a burden to someone as talented as him. He scolded her gently, insisting that she would be an excellent addition to his agency and that it was only a few years away. She playfully questioned whether he would want a 34-year-old on his team, to which he replied that age didn't matter, what counted was how useful she was. He assumed her quirk was well-trained, and when she confirmed it, he declared that she would definitely join his agency. His innocent smile momentarily reminded her of an old friend. As he waved goodbye and jumped off the stage, she returned the gesture. Once Vlad King confirmed that all the students had returned to the arena, Midnight cleared her throat and announced the next event. She revealed the top 42 students, displaying their names and ranks on a massive screen behind her. Midoriya congratulated his friends with a warm hug, though Bakugo protested and Ishido nearly used her quirk to escape his grip. After letting them go, Midnight instructed everyone who didn't make the top 42 to leave the arena. With them gone, she prepared to spin the wheel for the next game. In the city of Hosu, a blonde girl wandered the streets, unaware of the hero killer causing chaos. She found the city peaceful and was excited to see Izuku Midoriya leading the race. Her enthusiasm caught the attention of passers-by, and she quickly apologized before retreating to a back alley to watch the event unfold. She climbed onto a stack of boxes to get a better view, cheering for her future #1 hero. As Midoriya showcased his creativity with his quirk, she admired his skills. An unenthusiastic commentator echoed her thoughts, acknowledging Midoriya's potential as a great hero. After he finished the race, she jumped with joy, celebrating his victory with a kiss to the screen when the camera focused on him. After her celebration, she ventured further down another alley, pulling out her phone but quickly putting it away when she realized the race wasn't over. As she continued, she caught a whiff of something familiar and unsettling. Curiosity overcame her fear, and she cautiously peeked around a corner. An injured hero struggled to activate his quirk, promising to stop the villain known as Stain. Stain dismissed him, asserting that only All Might could truly stop him. He attacked the hero, leaving him incapacitated and mocking his inability to defend himself. Just as the sound of sirens grew closer, Stain noticed the girl hiding nearby and called her out. She revealed herself, smiling at Stain's handiwork. When he asked if she would report him, she confidently replied that fake heroes deserved their fate, but she would have acted differently if it were a real hero. Stain liked her attitude and inquired about her name, but she refused to share it with someone she deemed a fake hero. He invited her to follow him, and without hesitation, she complied, intrigued by the unexpected turn of events. They navigated through the streets until Stain led her into a building, climbing the stairs until they reached the top. Once there, Stain opened the door and walked onto the rooftop. The hero killer remarked on the beauty of the view, prompting a nod from the girl beside him. She inquired if he often visited this spot, to which he replied that he did, especially after defeating a fake hero. It was a place where he could relax and clear his mind. Curious about her, he asked her to share more about herself. She introduced herself as Himiko Toga and explained that she had run away from home. Her quirk, called Transform, allowed her to take on the physical appearance of someone after ingesting their blood, even mimicking their voice. To demonstrate, she transformed into a police officer, which impressed Stain. He shared that his quirk, Blood Curdle, enabled him to paralyze anyone whose blood he had ingested, with the duration depending on their blood type. Himiko expressed her admiration for his quirk, noting the rarity of blood users. Stain then asked why she had left home, and her smile faded as she recounted the struggles she faced. People labeled her a freak because of her quirk, her parents disowned her, and she felt overwhelmed by a society filled with insincere heroes. She longed for acceptance and genuine heroes who truly wanted to help others. Stain shared her sentiments, expressing his disdain for the fakers in society, including the government and heroes, who only cared for themselves. When Himiko asked for his name, Stain revealed that he was known as Kaizome Akaguro, or the Hero Killer. His mission was to rid the world of those who pretended to be heroes and to uplift those who genuinely wished to save society. Himiko was excited by his ideals and eagerly asked to be his sidekick, promising to take action against fakers without revealing their plans. Stain agreed to a sparring match, offering to use only one arm. Himiko playfully warned him not to be upset when she won. As the spar began, she rushed at him with a high kick, but he dodged effortlessly and swiftly countered, knocking her to the ground. She complained about his speed as she got back up, and he questioned her knowledge of Haki, explaining that she had much to learn. He instructed her to unlock her Haki and learn his techniques before she could officially become his sidekick. Himiko expressed her frustration at the long process, but Stain reassured her that he needed her to be ready for battle. He also offered her a place to stay, knowing she had been sleeping in bathhouses. She agreed, and they settled down together on the rooftop. As she checked her phone, she realized she had missed the end of a game of tag. Stain dismissed the event as filled with fakers, but Himiko insisted that one participant, a boy named Izuku, was the real deal. She passionately defended him, explaining that he believed in freedom and equality for all. Stain listened as she revealed her admiration for Izuku, even admitting to having a crush on him. When he asked if they were close, she mentioned that they spent time at each other's houses. Stain encouraged her to pursue her feelings, noting that genuine heroes often attracted the wrong kind of attention. Himiko hesitated, expressing concern that her past actions might ruin Izuku's dreams. Stain acknowledged her compassion and wrapped an arm around her. Redirecting the conversation, Himiko suggested they spar again, eager to continue training. Stain agreed, and they prepared for another round. Announcement echoed in the background, informing participants that they would soon begin a minigame before the final event of the sports festival. If you don't wish to participate, that's totally fine, Midnight announced, leaving a group of students puzzled. Uraraka looked at the teacher, confused about their cheerleading plans. Midnight explained that cheerleading was never part of the plan, which frustrated the girls. They all expressed their anger, vowing to make the two culprits pay for their trickery. Unbeknownst to them, the culprits were hidden somewhere in the building, watching from a concealed television. "Great job, Kaminari," Mineta said with a grin, giving his friend a thumbs up. Kaminari smiled back, rubbing the back of his head and returning the compliment. Midnight then suggested that since the girls were already dressed up, they should perform cheerleading anyway, noting how beautiful they looked. This idea captivated most of them. Ashido eagerly volunteered, twirling gracefully to emphasize her enthusiasm. Yaoyorozu hesitated, feeling annoyed at being tricked into participating. Jairu encouraged her, reminding her that it was all about having fun. Despite the encouragement, Momo decided to sit it out and walked away from the arena. As she passed through the tunnel and into the hallway where the locker rooms were located, she heard a familiar voice call out to her. Midoriya approached, a piece of meat in his mouth, and asked why she wasn't joining the cheerleading. She paused, waiting for him to catch up, and then explained that she didn't like being tricked into things, as it didn't feel right. Midoriya nodded in understanding and encouraged her to join the fun, reminding her that everyone else was enjoying themselves. After a moment of contemplation, Yaoyorozu agreed with him and thanked him for his support. She turned around to head back to the arena. Midoriya waved goodbye, feeling satisfied. He finished his piece of meat and looked for a bin to dispose of the bone. As he searched, he stumbled upon a pink-haired girl who was working on something. He asked her if she knew where the nearest bin was, and she revealed that she had a mini-bin with her. After placing the bone into the bin, a scanner emerged, and the bone was crushed, startling Midoriya. The girl explained that the bin could scan and convert items into something useful, demonstrating its durability by punching it. Midoriya was impressed and asked what would happen if he put paper into it. She explained that the paper would be cleaned and duplicated, though the new sheet couldn't be duplicated again. Curious, Midoriya bombarded her with questions about what she was making and why she was walking around while working. She explained that she was fixing a part of her grapple gun and preferred to stay mobile to keep her mind focused. When he asked about her babies, she clarified that she was referring to her inventions, not actual children. Midoriya realized she was passionate about her work and thought she would be a great fit for his future hero agency. She challenged him, saying she would only join if he had the best hero agency. Midoriya confidently declared that he would become the world's best hero and already had a partner in mind for her. Intrigued, she suggested making a bet. If he ranked first in the sports festival, she would join his agency. He eagerly accepted, shaking her hand to seal the deal. With the agreement in place, Midoriya felt excited about the potential of having her and Yaoyorozu working together on support items. He envisioned how their combined skills would be beneficial, especially with Yaoyorozu's ability to create materials and analyze their properties. The girl, though unsure of everything he said, felt that she and Yaoyorozu would make a great duo. Before parting, she introduced herself as Mei Hatsume, reminding him to remember her name. Midoriya realized she was the one fighting Ilda and confirmed that Ilda was indeed his friend. She warned him to tell Ilda to be prepared before walking away, leaving Midoriya intrigued by her unique personality. Midoriya felt a wave of boredom wash over him as he climbed the stairs, muttering to himself about the need for adventure. Upon reaching the next floor, he unexpectedly encountered a familiar figure. It was Endeavor, the renowned pro-hero. Midoriya waved at him, acknowledging his presence. Endeavor recognized the boy immediately. He paused to engage with Midoriya, recalling his unique quirk. Midoriya confirmed his identity, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. Endeavor, with a smirk, expressed his expectation that Midoriya would face his perfect creation in the upcoming tournament, wishing him luck. Midoriya, however, was resolute. He declared that he would defeat Endeavor's creation, with or without the hero's blessing. This bold statement ignited a flicker of irritation in Endeavor, who responded with a wave of intense energy that clashed with Midoriya's own. Although Midoriya's energy was not as strong, it was enough to neutralize the tension. Endeavor acknowledged Midoriya's potential as a worthy rival, surprised by the boy's display of strength. Midoriya reiterated his determination to win, further aggravating the seasoned hero. Endeavor, still simmering with irritation, warned Midoriya to maintain his confidence for when he faced defeat. He then brushed past Midoriya, leaving the boy to ponder his words. In a quiet corner of the UA stadium, Todoroki was lost in thought, manipulating ice and fire from his hands. He wondered why his fire always seemed to overpower his ice. As he practiced, he reminisced about his time with Fez, vowing to win the tournament and make him proud. 7 years earlier, a young Todoroki found himself running through the rain-soaked streets of Tokyo, unsure of where to go. He was hungry and desperate, searching for food. Spotting an adult, he tugged at her leg, seeking help. The woman, concerned by his appearance, knelt down to his level, noticing the mix of rain and tears on his face. He simply stated his hunger, prompting the woman to think quickly. She decided to help him, lifting him up and promising to take him somewhere to eat. After navigating through back alleys, they arrived at a restaurant called the Baratai. The establishment was quiet, typical for a late weekday. An older man named Fez greeted them warmly, offering a menu. The woman explained the situation, clarifying that the boy was not her son but needed assistance. Fez, understanding the urgency, assured them that he would prepare a special meal for the boy. In a gentle tone, the woman asked Todoroki why he was alone. He candidly admitted that he had run away from home. When pressed for details, he revealed that his family was unkind to him, particularly regarding his quirk. This revelation shocked the woman, who felt a surge of empathy for the young boy. Before she could ask more questions, Fez returned with 2 plates of food, bringing a bright smile to Todoroki's face. Overwhelmed with joy, he asked if it was all for him, to which Fez responded with a laugh, encouraging him to enjoy the meal. It always brightened Fez's day to see a customer like the woman who had just walked in. He glanced her way as she spoke about the restaurant's reputation. Inko mentioned that she had heard about the lovely work done here before stepping away from the table, ensuring Todoroki couldn't overhear their conversation. As a former pro-hero, Fez felt a deep commitment to bringing happiness to others. He smiled as he shared his past with Inko, revealing his history as a hero. She responded with admiration, expressing her belief that he must have been a great hero, which made him feel good, even if he brushed off her compliments. Inko then confided her concerns about a boy in need of a home. She expressed her reluctance to leave him in an orphanage, explaining that she already had a child to care for and that it was a struggle to afford everything. Fez listened intently, his attention caught by her plight. He approached the boy, asking for his name. The boy hesitated but finally revealed it was Shudo. Fez learned that Shudo had nowhere to stay and proposed that he could live with him and help run the restaurant. The boy's eyes lit up at the offer, and he quickly agreed, eager to escape the orphanage. However, Fez clarified that Shudo's stay would come with responsibilities. The boy's heart sank at the mention of a cost, but Fez reassured him that he wouldn't need money. Instead, he would need to help with cleaning and cooking. Shudo's spirits lifted again as he expressed his love for cooking. Curious about Shudo's aspirations, Fez asked what he wanted to be when he grew up. Without hesitation, Shudo declared he wanted to be a hero. Fez, pleased by the boy's ambition, offered to teach him some tricks of the trade, which Shudo eagerly accepted, with the caveat that it wouldn't involve his hands. When Fez inquired about his hands, Shudo hesitated, choosing not to share his secret. Fez playfully warned that he would find out one day. He urged Shudo to finish his meal so he could show him to his new room, which, though small, would be a cozy space for him. Just then, Inko announced she had to leave to pick up her son. She promised to check on them whenever she could. Fez offered to have one of his chefs drive her home, concerned for her safety, but she assured him she could handle herself. Once Inko left, Shudo finished his food and followed Fez upstairs to his new room. He loved the traditional feel of it, even if it was smaller than what he was used to. Over the next 2 years, Fez and Shudo grew close, like a father and son. Fez taught Shudo everything he knew about cooking and fighting while instilling important values, such as treating others with respect. Sometimes, Shudo took the idea of respect too far, but Fez was always there to guide him back. Despite their bond, Shudo kept his past a secret, feeling uncomfortable sharing it. That was until one sunny summer day when the baratai was preparing to open. Fez called for Shudo, checking if he had cleaned all the cutlery. Shudo, tired from the previous night, yawned and claimed he had done it, but Fez insisted he needed to wash them again. As Shudo went to clean, a loud knock echoed through the restaurant. Fez wondered who it could be and was surprised to see Endeavor at the door. The sight startled the chefs, especially one who dropped a knife in shock. Fez, not wanting to keep Endeavor waiting, opened the door, only to be met with the hero's angry demand for Shudo to come out. The commotion startled Shudo, who was frightened by Endeavor's presence. One of the chefs defended Shudo, telling Endeavor to lower his voice, but the flame hero was unyielding. Fez, standing up for his staff, admonished Endeavor for his lack of manners. Endeavor recognized Fez and acknowledged his past as a hero, noting his impressive fighting style. Fez, while flattered, insisted on being treated with respect. Endeavor entered the restaurant, where he found Shudo cowering behind one of the chefs. Endeavor questioned why Shudo was so scared, and the boy quietly admitted he didn't want to go home. Endeavor, visibly distressed, revealed that Shudo's brother had died due to an accident involving his quirk. He expressed his desire to bring Shudo home to ensure his safety, explaining that his hero duties had delayed his search for the boy. The emotional weight of the moment hung heavy in the air as Endeavor struggled to contain his tears. At the sight of the grown man nearly in tears, Fez urged Shudo to come out and talk to his father, and the younger Todoroki reluctantly complied. Once out of the kitchen and facing his father, Shudo regarded him with a cold stare. He expressed his unwillingness to return home, trying hard to maintain his composure. The older Todoroki pleaded with him, acknowledging the painful memories associated with their home but assuring him that everything would be fine upon his return. Shudo, however, insisted that he could not go back, declaring that he was scared and that this was his new home. This deeply hurt Enji, who felt defeated. To him, Shudo was his only hope, his perfect creation and son. In the past, Shudo had been obedient and loving towards his father, but after years of mental hardship, he had finally broken away and rejected him. Endeavor slowly broke inside at Shudo's words. The sense of betrayal filled his heart as he realized his son had turned against him. He coldly stated that if Shudo still planned to become a hero, he should return home by the age of 14, otherwise, he would ensure that every hero school in the country rejected him. With that, he left the shop, unaware of the deeper damage he had inflicted. Shudo had been the light in Enji's dark journey, and now that he felt betrayed, Enji would become fiercer in battle, his demeanor growing more brooding. He would defeat villains with such intensity that they were left incapacitated or barely alive. Unintentionally, Endeavor became the world's most feared hero, surpassing All Might in the number of villains captured and defeated during that time. By the time Shudo reached 14 and needed to return home, Endeavor had already changed too much. He now viewed Shudo merely as a means to surpass All Might, referring to him as his son only when necessary. In the present day, Todoroki sighed as he stood up, reflecting on his tumultuous childhood. He recalled the difficulty of sharing his past with Fez after the brooding man had left, remembering how Fez would hit him for stuttering while recounting his story. He wished he could see the kind woman again, hoping she was doing well. Present Mike announced the start of the finals, capturing everyone's attention. Midnight followed up, calling for Izuku Midoriya and Hitoshi Shinszo to make their way to the arena. In one of the tunnels leading to the arena, Midoriya was seen talking to a blonde man. Toshinori proudly asked if he was ready to show the world what he was made of. Midoriya chuckled and assured him he was ready as he finished his stretches. Toshinori encouraged him to go out there and give it his all before Midoriya stepped onto the arena, locking eyes with his opponent. The referee reminded both students of the rules. The match would end if either was knocked out or stepped out of bounds, and there would be no outside assistance or support items that weren't registered. He emphasized that killing was not permitted, and with that, the match began. As the two students stared at each other, analyzing their opponent, Shinszo shifted his gaze to the sky, admiring the clouds for a moment. He commented on the beautiful weather, catching Midoriya off guard. Before Midoriya could respond, Shinszo proposed that if he walked out of bounds, they could continue discussing the weather. Without hesitation, Midoriya complied, turning and stepping out of bounds. Present Mike expressed his confusion at what he was witnessing. Shinszo, with a smirk, continued to mimic Midoriya's movements, pleased with his apparent victory over the Class A student. As Midoriya was about to step outside the arena, a powerful wave of pressure filled the stadium, startling many spectators. Shinszo wondered what had just happened as he rubbed his eyes, trying to regain his focus. When his vision cleared, he saw an angered Izuku approaching him, having broken free from Shinszo's influence. A certain flame hero muttered under his breath, acknowledging the situation. Present Mike excitedly announced that Izuku Midoriya had chosen to fight Hitoshi Shinszo instead of walking away. Shinszo demanded to know how Midoriya had escaped his control, but Midoriya remained silent, knowing that answering would only put him back under Shinszo's grasp. Frustrated, Shinszo complained about Class A students getting everything, throwing a punch at the approaching Midoriya. However, Midoriya easily dodged it and delivered a punch to Shinszo's gut, causing him to fall to the ground. As he fell, Midoriya felt the urge to respond but ultimately denied it, saving his words for after Shinszo was defeated. Not wanting to strike his opponent while he was down, Izuku picked Shinszo up and then backed away, making a hand gesture for him to come at him once they were at a safe distance. Shinszo snapped, his forehead veins pulsating with frustration. In response, his opponent shook his head and gestured for him to fight again. Shinszo expressed his doubts about winning, stating that he wasn't blessed with an amazing quirk like Midoriya. This only irritated Midoriya further, prompting him to approach Shinszo. Determined not to back down, Shinszo steeled his resolve and threw a punch at Midoriya, only for the boy to grab his fist, stopping it in its tracks. Frustrated, Shinszo struggled to free his hand. Midoriya was about to speak but chose to remain silent as he delivered the final blow to Shinszo, striking him squarely in the face and knocking him out of bounds. Before present Mike or Midnight could announce the match's conclusion, Midoriya walked over to Shinszo and offered him some words of encouragement. He shared his own experience of feeling uncertain about his quirk, assuring Shinszo that if he viewed his abilities differently and worked on their weaknesses, he would realize how incredible his power truly was. Midoriya smiled and extended his hand. Midnight, feeling the warmth of their interaction, decided to let the moment unfold before announcing the match's conclusion. Shinszo contemplated the possibilities of his quirk, realizing that Midoriya might be right. Midoriya chuckled as he helped the magenta-haired boy back into the ring. Present Mike wiped a tear from his eye, celebrating the heartfelt moment between the students before announcing Midoriya as the winner by ring out. The crowd erupted in cheers, uplifted by the display of sportsmanship. Once both students left the arena, they exchanged a few words before parting ways. Alone in his waiting room, Midoriya reflected on the match and his defensive outburst of Haki. He noted that it had activated unconsciously for the second time that day, both times in defensive situations, suggesting that his Haki emerged when he felt cornered. He jotted down his thoughts in his notebook when an unexpected visitor entered, surprising them both. Apologizing for the mix-up, the brunette girl introduced herself as Uraraka. Midoriya welcomed her to wait in his room. She smiled and took a seat, informing him that Todoroki and Sero's match was about to start. Midoriya, having missed the announcement while writing, turned to face the TV, eager to watch. As the match began, Todoroki coated his leg in ice, moving swiftly around the ring to confuse Sero. Midoriya wondered about the meaning of Todoroki's words as Sero attempted to capture him with tape, only to be met with a powerful kick that sent him out of bounds. With a triumphant shout, Todoroki signaled the end of the match. Present Mike expressed his awe at the display of strength, announcing Todoroki as the winner by knockout and ring out. Uraraka commented on the excitement of the match, contemplating how such intensity could unfold in her own upcoming battle. When the next match began, both boys stared each other down before rushing at one another. Midoriya, in his base form, was caught off guard as Todoroki swiftly kicked him toward the edge of the ring. Midoriya mumbled to himself about needing to use his second gear to match Todoroki's speed, realizing he was currently outclassed. Todoroki taunted him, confident in his ability to knock Midoriya out of bounds with just a few more hits. However, Midoriya, regaining his composure, challenged Todoroki to come and ring him out. Todoroki accepted the challenge and charged at Midoriya, but before he could land a hit, Midoriya unleashed his own attack, stopping Todoroki's advance. Midoriya's new technique, the Gatling, allowed him to adapt to Todoroki's speed, surprising the crowd. Observers noted the impressive display of skill, with Bakugo acknowledging Todoroki's speed as something to be wary of. Midoriya seized the opportunity to jump into the air and deliver a powerful strike to Todoroki's stomach, causing him to stagger back. As Todoroki quickly recovered, he prepared to attack again, ready to showcase his ice abilities once more. Todoroki thought about his next move, feeling confident as he faced his opponent. The boy with green hair informed him that he would attack before he could react. Todoroki questioned the possibility, pointing out the trembling leg of his rival, which struggled under the weight of the ice he controlled. Midoriya smirked, suggesting that Todoroki should unleash his fire side to counteract the ice. This provoked Todoroki, who retaliated with a wave of ice that Midoriya easily countered with a swift attack. Midoriya taunted him, suggesting that his desire to be the world's most feared hero was rooted in a need to surpass his father without embracing his full potential. As Todoroki's frustration grew, he encased the arena in ice, but Midoriya continued to press on, revealing the selfish nature of Todoroki's dream. This struck a nerve, causing Todoroki to lash out again, momentarily igniting his fire side. Midoriya's words seemed to resonate with him, leading to a moment of reflection. Todoroki, overwhelmed by emotion, recalled a conversation with his guardian, feeling a mix of regret and understanding. He expressed gratitude to Midoriya, vowing to no longer be held back by his own limitations. With newfound determination, he ignited his leg in flames, melting the ice around them. Midoriya admired the beauty of Todoroki's flames, which prompted a confident response from Todoroki, who was ready to fight at full power. The excitement in the arena grew as Present Mike announced Todoroki's transformation, while Endeavor cheered from the stands, surprising the audience with his sudden appearance. Todoroki dismissed his father's encouragement, focusing instead on his own path. He declared that he would not be a mere successor but would forge his own identity as a hero. Midoriya smiled at this declaration, and they prepared to resume their battle. As the fight intensified, Midoriya activated his second gear, but he quickly lost sight of Todoroki, who had moved with incredible speed. Observers in the stands noted his remarkable agility, realizing that he was operating on a different level. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed through the stadium as Todoroki unleashed a series of powerful attacks. Midoriya braced himself, recalling the training he had undergone to withstand such strikes. Despite the onslaught, he managed to counter with a powerful move of his own, breaking through Todoroki's defenses. In a climactic moment, Midoriya unleashed a massive attack, sending Todoroki flying out of bounds. Fortunately, Todoroki managed to create an ice wall to protect himself from serious injury, but he was still knocked out of the ring. With that, the announcer declared Midoriya the winner by knockout, leaving the audience in awe of the fierce battle they had just witnessed. Confusion filled the air as spectators tried to process the rapid events that had unfolded. One moment, Tokoyami saw Todoroki striking Midoriya, and the next, two massive hands launched him out of bounds. He shared this with his classmates, recounting everything he knew. Jiraiya pointed out that Midoriya appeared unusually small, drawing everyone's attention to him. Present Mike excitedly announced an incredible comeback by Midoriya, who seemed to be child-sized now. The intensity of the match was so thrilling that they decided to replay it in slow motion for everyone to appreciate. He encouraged the audience to watch closely before turning off his mic and heading to the teacher's room. Bakugo squinted at the screen, focusing intently as the video began right after Todoroki disappeared. It showcased Todoroki using his ice and fire powers in tandem, darting around the ring to build speed. Once he had enough momentum, he leaped into the air and landed a powerful kick to Midoriya's head. Following that, he unleashed a series of rapid kicks, only to be halted by Midoriya, who used his enlarged arms to send Todoroki flying out of bounds, shattering his ice wall and crashing him into the wall behind. Kirishima commented on the impressive combo, wondering if he could withstand Todoroki's blows. Bakugo scoffed, pretending not to be impressed, while Ishido laughed, challenging him to try. Jiraiya then pointed out that Midoriya had returned to his normal size, drawing everyone's attention to him. Kaminari expressed curiosity about what Midoriya would do next, as he looked exhausted. Inside the arena, an injured Midoriya limped toward the unconscious Todoroki while the school's robotic staff placed him on a stretcher. He muttered Todoroki's name as he stumbled out of the ring. Midnight caught him before he could fall, commenting on how light he was. Midoriya, still dazed from the match, asked if he could go to the infirmary and speak with Todoroki. Midnight assured him she would rush him there after they passed the robots carrying Todoroki. As they moved through the tunnel to the medical room, Cementos informed Midnight that he would handle the remaining matches until she was finished with the boys. She thanked him and promised not to be long. After 10 minutes of recovery in the care of Midnight and Recovery Girl, Midoriya woke up, confused about his surroundings and whether he had missed his next match. He panicked, nearly tripping as he tried to get out of bed. Midnight laughed at his clumsiness and informed him that he had not missed his match. Ilda and Ibra had just finished theirs. Midoriya celebrated the news and asked how the match had gone. Midnight chuckled at his peculiar nickname for Ibra and explained that the match had been one-sided, with Ilda pushing her out of bounds at the first opportunity. Midoriya was thrilled for Ilda, but his excitement faded when he noticed Midnight's sorrowful expression. He asked what was wrong, and she explained that Ilda's brother had been attacked by a villain and was currently paralyzed from the waist down, with his survival uncertain. Midoriya recalled that Ilda's brother was a hero named Ingenium and expressed his hope for his recovery. Midnight revealed that the villain responsible was the hero killer Stain, who was known for hunting heroes in Hosu. Midoriya declared his desire to defeat Stain, surprising Midnight, who firmly told him that it was not a fight he could take on. Her sudden outburst startled the other patients in the room. Recovery Girl scolded Midnight for waking everyone up, and Midnight apologized, worried about the old woman's reaction. She reiterated that Midoriya could not confront Stain, especially since even seasoned heroes had fallen to him. Todoroki groaned as he sat up in his bed, interrupting their conversation. Midoriya jumped on his injured friend, who protested and demanded to know what they were discussing. Uraraka, now awake, joined the conversation, and Midoriya expressed his relief at her recovery. Tsu also reassured him that she would be fine, despite having gained a few scars. Midoriya comforted them, patting their heads and encouraging them to see their scars as symbols of strength. As the excitement in the room settled, a brunette man instructed everyone to quiet down, announcing that the match was about to begin. In the ring, the final competitors exchanged a few words before the battle commenced. Bakugo suggested starting off slow, claiming it would be boring if he won too quickly. Midoriya agreed, ready to save his energy for later. With a loud yell, Bakugo charged at his opponent, and Midoriya mirrored his rush as they met in the center of the ring, their brawl beginning as they swung at each other. Both of them dodged the majority of each other's punches and slashes, but in the end, Bakugo won the overall exchange by grazing Midoriya's cheek, prompting the team to retreat. Midoriya smirked, acknowledging his opponent's skill, as he wiped the blood from his lip. Bakugo, confident in his unpredictability, charged at Midoriya again. However, Midoriya seized the opportunity, wrapping his arm around Bakugo's mid-swing arm and throwing him to the ground. As he ran toward Bakugo, Midoriya called out, preparing to unleash a powerful attack. Bakugo narrowly dodged the punch, launching himself forward and creating an explosion that blinded Midoriya momentarily. This allowed Bakugo to follow up with a swift slash and kick, creating distance while leaving Midoriya injured. Looking down at his wounded chest, Midoriya touched the cut, a smile forming as he clenched his fist, acknowledging Bakugo's growing strength. Bakugo, determined to surpass Midoriya, pointed his sword at him, ready for the next round. Midoriya, undeterred, taunted Bakugo, challenging him to prove his strength. As Bakugo dashed forward, Midoriya wrapped his arm around Bakugo's waist and delivered a powerful punch. Despite the pain, Bakugo endured and retaliated before being launched away. Mitsuki, Bakugo's mother, urged her son to get up, while Inko, Midoriya's mother, cheered for her son to keep fighting. When Bakugo regained his footing, he laughed, pulling out his final sword and holding it in his mouth, signaling that the battle was far from over. Midoriya, feeling a surge of power, activated his new technique, causing steam to rise from his body. Mitsuki questioned Inko about Midoriya's transformation, but Inko could only smile, curious about her son's abilities. Midoriya announced his next move, seemingly teleporting in front of Bakugo and delivering a powerful punch that forced Bakugo to defend himself with his blades. Bakugo, recognizing Midoriya's speed, prepared to counter. He unleashed a massive tornado, enhanced by his explosions, which scorched Midoriya's skin. Midoriya struggled against the heat as he was lifted higher into the tornado. Bakugo followed up with a series of slashes, each one landing with precision, leaving Midoriya visibly injured. As the tornado dissipated, Midoriya lay on the ground, seemingly out of commission. Inko shouted encouragement, urging her son to rise, while Mitsuki expressed concern for Bakugo. Masaru, observing the fight, noted the severity of Bakugo's injuries. Back in the ring, Midoriya slowly got to his feet, determined to win. Despite his injuries, Bakugo refused to give up, psyching himself up and recalling All Might's faith in him. He stood tall, focusing on Midoriya, who was still recovering. Bakugo declared his intent to defeat Midoriya, getting into a familiar stance. Midoriya, feeling his body regain strength, prepared for the next clash. Both boys launched themselves at each other, their attacks colliding in a powerful display of strength and determination. The pressure of their attacks intensified, and both boys screamed their resolve, refusing to back down. It felt as if the clash lasted for hours, but in reality, it was only a few seconds. They were both willing to give everything they had for victory. Inko and Mitsuki shouted their support from the sidelines, urging their sons on. Ultimately, it came down to who could endure the most. Bakugo felt his body breaking, acknowledging his limits. Midoriya, summoning all his strength, broke through Bakugo's defenses and landed a decisive blow. With a final scream, Midoriya hurled Bakugo into the wall outside the ring. Inko erupted with joy, celebrating her son's victory, while Mitsuki expressed her dismay. The announcer declared Midoriya the winner by knockout and ring out, celebrating the incredible performance of both boys. Now that the wonderful match has ended, the award ceremony will commence once the contestants have healed and regained consciousness. He explained, turning off his mic to join his fellow colleagues in the teacher's lounge. All Might, you were right, Midoriya really is something special, Nizu said with a smile, sipping his tea. I told you, never doubt my ability to scout students, Toshinori replied with a laugh. We shouldn't, first Mirio, then Yususu, and now Midoriya. You have a special eye, Aizawa commented. Although, in my opinion, I still believe that Mizu would have been the better pick. Toshinori chuckled at this. You really like that boy, don't you? I will admit, he is something special, but Deku takes good care of him, and I think Yusutasu is a better fit for my agency. He watched as Midnight walked through the door. Don't tell me you guys are arguing about the second-year students again, she sighed, taking a seat next to Mike. No, we're having a civilized discussion about them. Unlike you, we can talk about our favorite students without getting mad, Aizawa teased, earning a playful reaction from his childhood friend. Whatever, Fua will always be superior to the other two, Midnight declared proudly, prompting the others to look at her. Whatever you say, Aizawa rolled his eyes. Inside the infirmary, many participants from the last portion of the festival were relaxing, healing their injuries before they had to return to the crowd for the award ceremony. In the 3 beds closest to the right wall, 3 boys sat up, staring at each other. You two look really bad, Todoroki noted, glancing at the blonde and green-haired boy. I could be worse. Kaken's bones were broken, Midoriya said with a smile, pointing to his childhood friend. If I were stronger, they wouldn't be broken. That's my fault, Bakugo replied, struggling to keep his eyes open. I'm so tired, my body feels almost back to normal, but I feel so drained. He complained, laying back on his bed. That's Recovery Girl's quirk. She speeds up the healing at the expense of your energy, Todoroki stated, getting up to grab a bottle of water. You guys fought your hearts out, Uraraka said, joining the boys' conversation. So did you. I was impressed with our match, Midoriya replied. Here you too, Todoroki announced, tossing 2 water bottles to Midoriya and Bakugo. Thanks, Bakugo. I'm still upset about my loss, though. I feel like I could have won, Uraraka said, trailing her fingers down her scar. In battle, anything can happen. You do have the potential to beat Kaken, but you haven't learned how to utilize it, Midoriya explained, catching the water bottle and drinking from it. But don't worry, there's no need to be upset. You tried your hardest and nearly beat him. Next time, turn nearly into actually beating him. He's not invincible, he added with a chuckle, earning a fierce glare from his rival. Yeah, Midoriya's right. When Bakugo threw me out of the ring, I felt upset, but after watching his match against Midoriya, I realized that if I train my quirk and Haki enough, I could beat him, Kirishima added, walking over to Bakugo's bedside. As the students continued to chat, Recovery Girl received a message notifying her that everyone who ranked 1st, 2nd, or 3rd needed to leave the infirmary and meet Vlad King near the locker rooms to prepare for the ceremony. I see, the old lady muttered to herself, getting up and walking over to the beds. Whoever placed in the top 3 must get dressed and meet Vlad King near the locker rooms, she informed them, looking at Midoriya and Bakugo. Give me 10 minutes to rest, Bakugo yawned. No, go now, Recovery Girl demanded, causing irritation to flare in the blonde. All right, fine, you old hag, he yelled back, getting out of his bed. Yay, let's go. Midoriya celebrated, jumping out of his bed as if nothing had happened. Atop the UA stadium, a blonde hero could be seen overlooking the scene. The view up here is beautiful, the hero acknowledged, touching his earpiece. In the arena, 3 platforms emerged from the ground, revealing 3 students and their placements in the tournament. Here you are, ladies and gentlemen, your 3 top scorers. Unfortunately, Ilda, who was also tied for third, couldn't make it due to family matters. Anyway, let's get into the awards. Midnight announced through her microphone. For this year's awards, I won't be handing them out. Instead, everyone's favorite hero, All Might, will be presenting the awards. She declared as a buff blonde man fell from the sky, landing in the middle of the ring. I am here with the medals, he proclaimed in his transformed state. That was perfect, Midnight whispered, earning a thumbs up from the #1 hero. Now onto our third place contestant. You are one strong kid, Tokoyami, and you seem smart too. You should know what to do when you face a counter matchup in the future, he awarded Tokoyami, offering him words of wisdom and praise while placing the medal around the boy's neck. Thank you, All Might, and understood. I need to work on my will so I'm not completely reliant on my quirk, Tokoyami said, bowing and looking at the medal and then at All Might. That's the spirit, kid. All Might smiled, hugging the boy before moving to the opposite side. There, he faced a bandaged Bakugo, who looked extremely upset and tired. You look in really bad shape, but that's because of how hard you pushed yourself. You're a very talented kid, keep up the good work. All Might praised Bakugo. I let you down, All Might. You said I could beat him, but I didn't, Bakugo sighed. I can't be the world's strongest if I can't beat Midoriya, he continued, making All Might smile. Winners don't always win. Losing is a part of winning. If you can't pick yourself up and push yourself to the limit each time, you'll never achieve your dream. But as I told you before, you have that spirit and the will to keep getting up and striving for the top spot. Your time will come, don't worry, kid, All Might explained, lifting Bakugo's spirits. Yeah, you're right. I don't see myself giving up anytime soon, Katsuki smirked, glancing at Midoriya, who was sitting down, observing their conversation. Well done, young Bakugo, All Might concluded, hugging the boy before placing the medal around his neck. And for the winner of the tournament, young Midoriya. All Might announced, wrapping the medal around Midoriya's neck. Words cannot express how impressed I am with you. Your quirk usage was top-notch, and you handled every opponent in front of you in an impressive fashion. All Might continued, making Izuku smile even more. Due to his outstanding performance, Midoriya was publicly offered an internship at All Might's agency. The crowd in the stands gasped in astonishment at the incredible opportunity presented to him. Kaminari pointed out that All Might typically takes one student from the sports festival under his wing, noting that while last year it was Yusutasu, this was the first time such an announcement had been made publicly. Somewhere in Tokyo, a scruffy-haired man scrutinized everything on his monitor, his grip tightening around a cup until it shattered as he watched a green-haired boy wave at the camera with a smile. Beside him, a familiar figure shrouded in mist observed the event while cleaning a cup. Suddenly, a deep voice broke the silence, prompting the scruffy man to pay attention. The voice questioned whether Tamura was properly analyzing the situation, particularly how well the boy utilized his quirk to gain an advantage in the fight. Tamura confirmed he was indeed aware, expressing his frustration over the difficulties faced during their previous invasion. The voice continued, explaining the importance of the boy's quirk and ambitions. It emphasized that while the boy spoke of equality and the shunning of others, the world would never conform to such ideals. The voice proposed that if they could convince him to join their cause, it would benefit them greatly. Tamura expressed concern about the possibility of the boy refusing to join, but the voice reassured him that they would handle any defiance accordingly. After a moment of silence, the voice inquired about the hero killer Stain, asking if Tamura had any updates on his activities. Tamura reported that Stain was active in Hosu, typically patrolling at night but occasionally appearing during the day. The voice then ordered Kurogiri to send one of their minions to locate Stain and bring him back. In an abandoned apartment just outside Hosu, a girl was busy cooking breakfast for two, expertly flipping pancakes. She celebrated her success and called out to her roommate, alerting him that breakfast was nearly ready. Stain emerged from his room, yawning and engrossed in an All Might comic book. Himiko apologized for her loudness, serving Stain his plate of food. Stain complimented her cooking but noted that the combination of grilled fish, eggs, sausage, and pancakes was unusual. Himiko shrugged, asserting that weird people do weird things, and that was simply who they were. Stain agreed but grimaced at the memory of a particularly odd breakfast from the previous day. As they enjoyed their meal, Stain mentioned feeling as though someone had been watching him during his patrols, despite his usual ability to sense such things. Himiko asked if this was a potential threat, and Stain speculated that if they were a threat, they would have attacked him already. Himiko offered to accompany him on his patrol, but Stain firmly refused, insisting that she needed to develop her skills further before joining him. He explained that while she was strong, she needed to learn Haki to be prepared for encounters with skilled fighters. Toga argued that her observation skills had improved, but Stain bluntly disagreed, demonstrating his point by grabbing a knife. As he playfully attacked her with the knife, Toga skillfully dodged each slash. In a surprising move, she disarmed him, sending the knife flying into the wall. Stain acknowledged her impressive reflexes but pointed out that she had injured her foot in the process. Toga cheerfully remarked that she enjoyed pain and blood, embracing her unique nature. Stain applied bandages to her foot and confirmed that he would go on his early patrol as planned. Toga expressed her hope to join him soon, and Stain promised that if she continued to improve, they could train together when he returned home. A few minutes later, the hero killer left his room fully clothed, promising to return soon as he patted her head before jumping out of the back window, leaving Himiko alone. Now that the blonde teen was by herself, she opened her camera roll and watched a video that had recently become her favorite. Once the video finished buffering, a familiar face appeared on her screen. The #1 hero spoke about a recent competition, highlighting a winner who had confidently declared his intention to succeed. Impatiently, Himiko urged the video to skip to her favorite part. After the hero's speech concluded, the green-haired boy stood up, leading into the events that followed. He addressed the crowd, expressing his vision for a world where everyone would know true peace and freedom, where no one would be judged for their quirks or lack thereof. He promised to fight against villainy and declared that those who chose evil would face his determination. Himiko smiled, a tear forming in her eye as she absorbed his words. She admired his eloquence and felt a growing attachment to him. Reminded of her mentor's advice, she resolved to pursue her own goals, even if they diverged from what he would approve of. She knew she could deal with her feelings later. Kaizome, her mentor, had initially supported her pursuit of Midoriya, but after hearing the boy's speech, he believed it was best for her to chase her new ambitions and meet him later. If Midoriya was as noble as he seemed, Kaizome felt confident that his words would ultimately benefit Himiko. Crouching atop a building in Hosu, the hero killer scanned the city for any lurking heroes. Suddenly, he was enveloped in a black mist before he could react. A voice introduced itself as Tamura Shigaraki, extending a hand for a handshake. Stain, wary, demanded to know why he was there. Shigaraki explained that they had brought him to invite him into the League of Villains. Stain recognized the name, recalling their infamous attack on UA, and pressed for their motives. Shigaraki revealed their intention to eliminate the world's symbol of peace, which amused Stain. He mocked the group's aimless destruction, angering Shigaraki. As tensions rose, Stain warned Shigaraki that without a true purpose, their goals would ultimately lead to failure. He drew his blade, but Shigaraki countered by decaying it, asserting his own desire for chaos. Stain expressed disdain for villains driven by destruction, while Shigaraki ranted about his ultimate goal, to kill all might in a public display. Stain recognized the hatred Shigaraki held for false heroism, admitting that while their goals were opposed, he found some merit in Shigaraki's conviction. This only frustrated Shigaraki further, who dismissed Stain's praise and expressed his desire to be left alone. Kurojiiri, concerned for Shigaraki, suggested that someone like Stain could be useful. However, Shigaraki rejected the idea, believing Stain's unpredictability would be a liability. Stain, intrigued by Shigaraki's potential, warned him that he would be watching his next moves, threatening to return if he failed. Once back in Hosu, Stain patrolled the city for a few hours, encountering several heroes before returning home to Himiko. The rest of the day was spent sparring, focusing on Himiko's training. A new day had begun, and 4 students from UA were on their usual train, making their way to school. Ashido rested her head on her friend's shoulder, pondering whether to embrace or resent the attention they received. Midoriya, seated comfortably, expressed his excitement about the attention, confident that he would become the #1 hero one day. Bakugo, ever the pragmatist, warned Ishido not to fall asleep on him as they were nearing their station. Yawning, Ishido admitted that her late-night overvant binge had taken its toll. Kirishima nudged Midoriya, showing him his phone. Midoriya was surprised to discover that Kirishima had his own fan club on Twitter, and Kirishima noted that Midoriya had one too, albeit a more wholesome version. Ishido lamented her own experience with Twitter, having deleted her account due to the negativity she encountered. Just then, a businessman recognized them from the UA Sports Festival, drawing attention from other passengers. A teenage girl exclaimed her admiration for Midoriya, prompting Ishido to sigh in resignation at the attention. Bakugo, with his usual bravado, claimed that he would have plenty of eyes on him when he became the world's strongest hero. Kirishima shrugged, unfazed by the attention. As the train arrived at Mizudafu, an AI voice announced their destination. Midoriya politely asked the passengers blocking the door to let them through. Once off the train, the group discussed their day off and their previous night's chat in the group chat. Kirishima teased Ishido and Bakugo about their dynamic, which led Ishido to insist that Bakugo was like a brother to her. Midoriya pointed out the peculiar way they had been addressing each other in the group chat, while Bakugo insisted they had discussed it privately. Kirishima was intrigued by Bakugo's occasional tendency to get lost since taking up kendo, and Midoriya explained that it happened rarely but was still a concern. Bakugo demanded to be let go, insisting he knew where he was going, while Midoriya playfully pulled him back. Upon arriving at school, Midoriya sensed a shift in the atmosphere, realizing that one of his classmates was having a rough day. He resolved to keep an eye on him. As they ascended the stairs, Midoriya was suddenly pulled aside by Hatsume, who greeted him with a smile. She confirmed that she was there to honor their bet, promising to join his agency in the future. Midoriya celebrated this news, excited about building his ideal team. Hatsume laughed at his enthusiasm and offered to show him one of her new inventions, but Midoriya declined, promising to meet her at lunch instead. Once in class, Midoriya took his seat and waited for their teacher to arrive. After a few moments of uncertainty, Uraraka pointed out that their sensei had been present all along, hidden behind the podium. Aizawa yawned and congratulated the class on their performances from the previous week, noting that some had exceeded his expectations. Just as he began to explain the next task, Midnight interrupted, announcing that it was time for the students to choose their hero names. Aizawa, somewhat annoyed, agreed with Midnight's suggestion and encouraged the students to be quick, as they had important internships to prepare for. Midnight set a timer and instructed the class to choose their names. After 5 minutes, Midnight began calling on students to share their chosen names. Ishido boldly declared her name, Acid Queen, which startled Midnight, who insisted that hero names should evoke warmth and protection. Ishido, feeling deflated, took her seat. Aoyama then confidently introduced himself as the sparkling hero, Twinkles, earning praise from Midnight. With anticipation building, Midnight turned to Midoriya, eager to hear his hero name. Midoriya eagerly asked his senior if he was super strong and smart, prompting a chuckle from Yusasu. He smirked as he stepped into the elevator, towering at 6'9" with distinctive orange eyes and red hair that stood up, making him stand out among the crowd. Once inside the elevator, the two boys engaged in conversation, sharing their favorite foods and hobbies. Midoriya revealed that his favorite was katsudon, insisting it had to have plenty of meat, which intrigued Yusasu. In turn, Yusasu mentioned his preference for cabbage rolls and expressed his dislike for curry udon, recalling how he had been forced to eat it for a month straight. Midoriya laughed at his senior's grimace, arguing that curry udon wasn't that bad. Yusasu scoffed, insisting that anyone who had to eat it for a month would understand his distaste. He then warned Midoriya to lower his expectations for the day, which the younger boy accepted with a smile. Curiosity piqued, Midoriya asked about Yusutasu's quirk, wondering if it involved the metal ball he was holding. Yusutasu confirmed that they were part of his quirk and teased Midoriya about his own, noting that he was a stretchy boy with a rubber-type mutation. He complimented Midoriya's imagination, suggesting that his quirk was more than just rubber. Midoriya asserted that any power could be impressive with enough effort. As they reached their destination, Yusutasu instructed Midoriya to stay behind him. However, Midoriya, confused, stepped into the room first. An old voice suddenly declared a challenge, throwing a tennis ball at them, catching Midoriya off guard. Yusutasu quickly split his metal ball to create a shield around Midoriya, protecting him just in time. The old man, Grand Torino, grinned as he jumped off the desk, teasing Yusutasu for his protective instincts. Yusutasu scolded Midoriya for not listening, playfully hitting him on the back of the head. Midoriya winced but turned to introduce himself to Grand Torino, recognizing him as the Shadow No. 5 hero who had stepped back from the rankings for personal reasons. Grand Torino explained that he had focused on training Toshinori, the future No. 1 hero, before returning to his role without a ranking. Midoriya extended his hand for a handshake, correcting Grand Torino when he mispronounced his name. Grand Torino laughed, claiming he was just joking about his memory. Yusutasu expressed concern about Grand Torino's health, to which the old man playfully responded, pranking both of his students. Yus, slightly annoyed, spun the metal ball in his hands faster. Grand Torino jumped onto Yusutasu's shoulders, teasing him further. Yusutasu demanded he get off, and the old man challenged him to take it to the training room. Eager to show Midoriya true strength, Yusutasu led the way, while Midoriya excitedly pulled out his notebook to document the upcoming fight. In the training room, Grand Torino began to stretch as Yusutasu changed into his hero outfit. Yusutasu smirked, asking if Grand Torino was ready to lose, to which the old man responded with a reminder of their past battles. Midoriya noted Yusutasu's metal manipulation quirk, realizing it was more complex than just the metal ball. With the fight initiated, Yusutasu ascended into the air, surprising Midoriya. As Yusutasu waved his fingers, he sent Grand Torino soaring upward. The experienced hero let out a high-pitched yell, but Yusutasu remained focused. Frustrated, he decided to unleash his full power, causing the metal in the room to tremble. He formed numerous metal bows and arrows, firing them in every direction. Grand Torino dodged the arrows with impressive speed, acknowledging Yusutasu's growth with his quirk. The veteran hero grinned as he landed on Midoriya's head before launching himself at his opponent. Midoriya looked up in confusion, wondering where Grand Torino had gone. He realized Torino was moving so fast that he could barely see him, indicating he was at Todoroki's level of speed or even faster. Midoriya focused his vision on Yusutasu, anticipating when Torino would strike. Yusutasu questioned himself, but before he could finish, a small figure appeared right in front of him. Torino chuckled as he went in for the finishing blow, announcing his move with a confident shout. The impact sent Yusutasu flying into the ground, and Torino smirked as he landed next to Midoriya, claiming that was how to deal with a rowdy student. Izuku gasped in amazement at the strength Torino displayed. Yusutasu winced, rubbing his head as he got up and declared that he would beat the old man one day. He walked over to his junior and sensei, who laughed at his determination. Torino teased Yusutasu about not having even used his observation haki yet, stating that advanced techniques and pure speed were enough for him. Yusutasu suggested they give the newbie a tour, cracking his neck as he walked toward the exit. Midoriya celebrated the idea and quickly put away his notebook and pen. Torino informed them that during the tour, they would explain everything Midoriya needed to know, gesturing for the boys to follow him. As they left the room, they began to explore the entire building, visiting many secret rooms that regular staff wouldn't be aware of. After a long, enjoyable day of touring, the three decided to grab something to eat at the mighty table. Midoriya, curious, asked why All Might wasn't there. Grand Torino explained that Toshinori was a busy man who made Torino handle all of his interns. Recently, he had been occupied trying to track down and confront the god of the underworld. Midoriya, intrigued, asked about the god of the underworld, having only heard of the kings associated with it. Torino explained that where there are kings, a god must coexist. While the kings of the underworld did not praise their god, they were aware of his existence and likely feared him. Most heroes aimed to take down the duo, but Toshinori had faced the god of the underworld and understood that defeating him was his true goal. Midoriya wondered if that was the same figure responsible for the scar on Toshinori's face. Grand Torino confirmed it, recalling his own troubling past with the god. Midoriya declared that he wanted to beat him too, surprising Torino and prompting laughter from Usutasu. Torino and Usutasu expressed their admiration for Midoriya's spirit, and he thanked them, then shifted the conversation to why All Might didn't have any sidekicks. Torino explained that Toshinori was too busy for them and preferred to have branch-off agencies, like the Night Eye Agency, which Midoriya recognized as the top-ranking hero agency associated with All Might. Torino continued, explaining that once an intern left the All Might internship, their name became significant enough to start their own agency and become affiliated with others. Midoriya asked about a third-year student who wasn't present, wondering if he had dropped out. Torino clarified that he was interning at Night Eyes, seeking a different experience for his final year. Midoriya then inquired if they would ever go on a mission with All Might. Torino explained that if Toshinori got a lead on a major development in the underworld, he would. Usutasu reminisced about a past mission where they had to stop a large shipment of villains disguised in jars of coffee jelly, recalling how much fun it had been. Midoriya expressed his desire to go on a mission, suggesting they head to Hosu in a few days since the hero killer Stain would be there. This piqued the interest of both men, with Usutasu theorizing that teaming up against the hero killer could lead to an exciting fight. Torino acknowledged that while their Haki was currently weak, fighting the hero killer would significantly enhance their skills. He proposed they would go after him once Midoriya unlocked his observation Haki and armament. The boys agreed, excited about the prospect. Torino instructed them to get some rest as they would start at dawn. The next day, the two heroes in training were awake early, practicing their Haki in preparation for their future fight. Gran Torino reminded them to use their quirks to assist them, emphasizing that sensing him wouldn't be easy. He encouraged them to remember that Haki wasn't the only factor in battle, their quirks could change the tide. He demonstrated by jumping around the room and landing a kick on Izuku's stomach, urging him to learn to protect himself with armament. Midoriya focused, tensing his arm and shutting his eyes. When he opened them, he saw his will covering his arm. Torino acknowledged their progress, encouraging them to work on their observation skills. Usutasu shot his guns, and Torino commented on how easy he was to track, prompting Usutasu to grin at his growing abilities. As the room transformed into a training ground, Midoriya activated Gear 2 and focused intently on tracking Gran Torino. He thought about All Might's advice to feel the presence of others, but Gran Torino was moving too quickly. Instead, he decided to concentrate on Usutasu. With determination, he sensed him and suddenly found Sorahiko diving toward him. Gran Torino chuckled, acknowledging Midoriya's progress. He swiftly changed direction before Izuku could land a hit. Usutasu instructed Midoriya to inflate his body for the next encounter, and Izuku nodded in agreement. After an hour of intense training, their instructor called for a 10-minute break to help them regain their strength and confidence. Gran Torino informed Izuku that although they had planned to pursue the hero-killing maniac after unlocking the remaining Haki types, they could strengthen their abilities sooner than expected. Izuku nodded, eager to improve. He expressed his desire to train his quirk further, feeling that he had lost some creativity in its use. Sorahiko reassured him, explaining that mastering his quirk would enhance his Haki usage, and the complexity he brought to his abilities would only improve his skills. For the remainder of the day, the boys and their mentor trained vigorously, pushing each other to grow stronger and teaming up against Gran Torino. The next day, Kirishima remarked on how peaceful the train ride had been, stretching as they approached the Deku Hero Agency. Bakugo noted that their journey had been quieter without Izuku and Mina's constant chatter. He asked Kirishima if he was ready, and the redhead confirmed with a smile as they entered the agency. As they approached the desk, they noticed a familiar figure from the train. Kirishima wondered why he was there, but Bakugo shrugged it off and approached the desk. Before he could introduce themselves, the tall, dark-haired man instructed them to follow him to the elevator. Kirishima hesitantly trailed behind Bakugo, who noticed the black markings on the man's hand and quietly read the letters. He found them intriguing and asked about the long sword on the man's back, curious if it was one of the remaining graded swords. The man confirmed it, piquing Bakugo's interest. As the elevator doors opened, they entered a large room where a tall, muscular man welcomed them. Kirishima admired the fancy decor, noting the bar, while Bakugo introduced himself with a firm handshake. The hero, Ukuzi Murasaki, the number 4 hero, greeted them warmly and invited them to sit down. Murasaki mentioned another intern, Ho, and how he had been awkward at first but eventually opened up. Kirishima was surprised to learn that Ho was a year above them, commenting on his mature appearance. Murasaki explained that Ho's sideburns and goatee had developed over the past year. Kirishima thanked Murasaki, while Bakugo pondered the challenges of being a quirkless hero. He asked how Murasaki managed to conceal the existence of Haki while claiming to be quirkless. The hero shared that it was difficult to maintain that facade, leading him to avoid interviews and end fights quickly. He noted that this decision had caused him to drop a rank, but he was fortunate that another hero, Rumurko, faced similar challenges, helping him maintain his position. At this point, Deku had allowed the rumors about his supposed invulnerability and other quirks to circulate due to his struggle to explain how he could be a high-ranking hero while being quirkless. He sighed and took a sip of his water. Kirishima suggested that lying might be the best option in Deku's situation. However, Deku firmly stated that he would never lie, as it went against his morals. Katsuki found this amusing and teased Deku, calling him a saint. Deku reflected on his past, mentioning that his father had instilled kindness in him through tough lessons. He then asked the boys if they wanted to hear an old tale, which prompted Mizu to roll his eyes and announce his intention to train, leaving the two to listen. Deku began his story, recalling events from 12 years ago in Japan. A young boy with dark hair declared his frustration with school and his determination to become the best hero. Upon arriving home, he hesitated before entering. As he opened the door, he was met with a harsh reprimand from his father, who was furious about his decision to leave school. The boy winced in pain but acknowledged his father's anger, understanding the importance of respecting those who dedicate their lives to teaching. His father decided that since the boy had chosen to leave school, he would be homeschooled instead. The boy scoffed at this, convinced he would become a great hero. Once in his room, he texted someone important to him, sharing his news about being kicked out of school. The girl responded with skepticism about his ability to become a hero without a quirk or a proper school. Despite her warnings about the dangers of vigilante work, the boy remained determined, reminding her of their past sparring matches. Their conversation continued, filled with playful banter and encouragement. The boy expressed his plans to grab ramen from a nearby shop, and the girl urged him to stay safe, promising to support him if he ever got into trouble. After hanging up, he left his house, feeling the cold air as he made his way to the shop. As he took his usual shortcut through an alley, he encountered a panicked figure trying to clean blood off his clothes. The reptile-like human was fleeing from a hero, claiming he had just injured someone. Seeing this as an opportunity to test his own abilities, the boy picked up a metal pipe and approached the startled individual, smirking as he asked if everything was all right. The reptile warned him to stay back, but the boy threatened to take him down if necessary. The tension escalated as the reptile, feeling cornered, prepared to attack. The boy recalled his father's teachings, ready to confront the situation head-on. The dark-haired boy recalled the moment, channeling his determination to deliver a powerful strike to the reptilian teen. The lizard boy winced, holding the side of his head, surprised that a metal pole could hurt him. He glanced at Ukuzi, who was glaring back at him. Murasaki challenged the lizard teen, questioning whether he would continue to complain about his injury or actually engage in the fight. With a sudden rush, the two opponents exchanged blows. The reptilian teen leaped off the wall to land a downward strike, but Ukuzi swiftly jumped back and then charged forward, hitting the lizard boy on the head to momentarily daze him. Before continuing, Ukuzi offered the lizard a chance to surrender peacefully, warning him that if he didn't, he would have to take further action. Just then, a familiar voice called out, interrupting the moment. The lizard teen panicked, realizing that help had arrived and attempted to flee. Ukuzi questioned his intentions, standing firmly in place. The frightened reptile pleaded for mercy, expressing his fear of going to jail. Before Ukuzi could respond, his father's voice broke through the tension, calling out to him in surprise. Ukuzi proudly pointed out the captured criminal, who was still squirming. His father looked at him in disbelief but quickly regained focus when his partner urged him to wrap things up. His partner took the subdued reptile from Ukuzi, praising the boy for stopping the escape. Afterward, Ukuzi's father instructed him to stay put while he handled the situation. When he returned, he wore a conflicted expression and suggested they go for ramen to discuss Ukuzi's future. Grabbing his son's arm, he led him to their favorite ramen shop. Once seated, they ordered their usual dishes, and the conversation began. Ukuzi asked his father what he envisioned for his future. His father probed deeper, asking why Ukuzi wanted to become a hero. Was it because of him, a desire for excitement, or a genuine wish to make a difference in the world? Ukuzi admitted that it was a combination of all three. He felt destined for heroism and acknowledged his academic strengths but emphasized that he cared more about fighting, saving lives, and having a meaningful reason to wake up each day. His father reflected on a moment from the past when Ukuzi's mother had predicted he would be a fighter, recalling her words about his birth. Matsu expressed regret for not recognizing Ukuzi's potential sooner and apologized for steering him toward a path he didn't want. Ukuzi accepted his father's apology, understanding that it came from a place of love and protection. The two shared a heartfelt moment, with Ukuzi reaching across the table to grasp his father's hands. Matsu expressed gratitude for his son's forgiveness, and they both felt a sense of relief. The conversation shifted back to Ukuzi's aspirations. He eagerly asked about training to become a hero. Matsu assured him that he would teach him everything he could, noting that Ukuzi had already made significant progress by learning to channel his willpower into his actions. Ukuzi recalled a training session where he had copied his father's technique, resulting in his weapon taking on a darker hue. Matsu confirmed that this was a sign of Ukuzi's growing abilities. However, he cautioned that they needed to keep Ukuzi's identity as a vigilante under wraps to avoid legal trouble. Ukuzi reassured his father that he had already crafted a discreet outfit for his nighttime activities. Matsu laughed, impressed by his son's preparation and enthusiasm. They continued to enjoy their ramen, sharing stories and laughter, reveling in the bond they had rekindled. Over the next 2 years, they embarked on nighttime missions together, ensuring Ukuzi remained out of the public eye while Matsu climbed the ranks of heroes. Their goal was for Matsu to reach the top 15 in Japan and advocate for Ukuzi to take the hero licensing exam. Their plan was progressing well, with Matsu advancing significantly in the rankings. As Matsu grew stronger and took down more formidable criminals, he became a beacon of hope for the citizens of Japan. However, Ukuzi's relationship with Rumi faced challenges, often resulting in arguments stemming from his inquisitive nature and her protective instincts. Despite the ups and downs, their bond remained strong as they navigated the complexities of their lives. The love between Ukuzi and Rumi was sometimes overwhelming, leading them to say and do things that could hurt or annoy each other. Ukuzi's reckless nature fueled Rumi's overprotectiveness, while Rumi's tendency to keep her boyfriend in the dark sparked Ukuzi's curiosity. Unbeknownst to them, the traits they disliked in one another were beginning to influence their behaviors. Rumi's adventurous spirit was starting to affect Ukuzi, and his habit of disappearing for hours on end was becoming more pronounced. Despite their differences, they always found a way to reconcile until Ukuzi's 17th birthday, when a significant change would alter their relationship forever. On Ukuzi's 17th birthday, the two teens were heading home after spending the day together. Rumi expressed her annoyance at Ukuzi for cheating on the arcade game they had played, reminding him that they had agreed not to use any special abilities. Ukuzi, with a smirk, dismissed her complaints. As they approached his house, Ukuzi received a call from his father. His father urgently informed him that they had located the heavenly demon, who was injured, and needed Ukuzi's help to confront him. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Ukuzi responded with determination and rushed home. Rumi, curious about the call, chased after him. Once inside, Ukuzi quickly changed into his vigilante costume. Rumi, not wanting to be left out, revealed her own hero costume hidden in his room. After a brief moment of surprise, Ukuzi rolled his eyes, realizing he needed to check his room more often. Once they were both ready, They stepped outside, noticing the sudden change in the weather as clouds gathered ominously. Ukuzi groaned about the impending rain before leaping onto a building, directing Rumi to follow him as they jumped from rooftop to rooftop. After a short while, they arrived at the scene of chaos. The warehouse before them was engulfed in flames, and the sight of fallen heroes was chilling. But the most alarming sight was a massive figure holding a familiar hero by the neck, squeezing tightly. Ukuzi's heart raced as he recognized his father and rushed forward, sword drawn. Rumi, sensing the danger, tried to warn him, but it was too late. The villain unleashed a barrage of strings towards Ukuzi, who fought to break free from their grasp. The villain, intrigued by Ukuzi's determination, tossed the injured hero aside and charged at him. Rumi intervened, striking the villain and momentarily distracting him. The villain, now facing two opponents, seemed even more excited by the challenge. As they prepared to fight, an overwhelming presence approached, causing a momentary freeze. The villain recognized the power of endeavor and decided to retreat, using his strings to escape. Frustrated, Ukuzi threw his sword to the ground, but Rumi reminded him that they needed to focus on his father. Turning around, Ukuzi saw his father bleeding and rushed to his side, desperate to ensure he was okay. His father, weak but resolute, urged Ukuzi not to give in to despair. He imparted his final words of wisdom, encouraging his son to protect those he loved and to strive to be the hero he was meant to be. As Matsu's strength waned, he held onto his son's hand tightly, leaving Ukuzi and Rumi in tears, reflecting on their memories with him. In that moment of sorrow, Matsu gathered his remaining strength to inspire them both, reminding them to stay true to themselves and to seek justice. He asked them to confront the demon who had caused so much pain. With a shared vow, Ukuzi and Rumi promised to honor his memory and become the heroes he believed they could be. After a minute passed, Matsu's breathing ceased and his heart stopped, marking the end of his life. Once the two realized he was gone, Ukuzi gently closed his father's eyes and lifted him. Just as he was about to call for help, Endeavor arrived, witnessing the tragic scene. He felt a surge of anger and sadness, unintentionally intensifying the flames around him. He expressed his regret, wishing he could have arrived sooner. Ukuzi, holding his father's lifeless body, reassured Endeavor that it was all right. He then asked the hero what he thought of his father. Endeavor recalled Davinso as an incredible hero, a rising star known for his strong sense of justice, which only deepened Ukuzi's sorrow. Grateful for Endeavor's kind words, Ukuzi felt a mix of pride and grief. Endeavor, needing to pursue the heavenly demon, informed them that help would arrive shortly. Before leaving, he inquired about their identities. Ukuzi explained that he was a vigilante and Rumi was a hero in training, already licensed. Endeavor decided not to report them, advising Ukuzi to secure a hero license, as vigilantes could only thrive as long as they were accepted by the public and government. Ukuzi nodded in agreement, and Endeavor took off, leaving them to mourn together. When the ambulance and police arrived, they took the two in for questioning. The police focused solely on Rumi, allowing Ukuzi to grieve his father's murder in silence, while Rumi covered for him. After their release and return home, Ukuzi refrained from contacting Rumi, choosing to distance himself. This decision broke her heart, but she respected his need for space to mourn. A year later, after his father's passing, Ukuzi discovered a lead on the heavenly demon's next move. He realized the villain was targeting an official, likely planning another murder. Determined to prevent further loss, he leaped from his window, promising himself he wouldn't let the demon kill again. As he approached the official's mansion, he received a message from Rumi but chose to ignore it, focusing instead on his mission. Upon entering the mansion, he heard a glass shatter, prompting the official to investigate. Following closely, Ukuzi found a tall man with claws confronting the official, who was panicking about his guards. The bearded assailant smirked, declaring the official was next. Just as he lunged, Ukuzi intervened, blocking the attack and overpowering the assailant with a swift strike. After dispatching the attacker, Ukuzi turned to the stunned official, who praised his power. Ukuzi requested a favor in return for his help, hoping to secure a hero license. The official agreed, and Ukuzi introduced himself, humorously suggesting the name Deku, which earned a smile from the official. Years passed, and Deku embarked on numerous adventures, building his reputation as a hero. During this time, he found closure regarding his father's death and rekindled his relationship with Rumi. Although their paths as heroes led them to drift apart, their mutual love and respect remained strong, each silently vowing to cherish the other. Their close relationship drew attention from fans and conspiracy theorists, who speculated about their connection. Fortunately, the rumors faded when the forum discussing them was deleted. In the present day, Deku concluded his story, taking a sip of water. Kirishima expressed interest in hearing more about his adventures, prompting a chuckle from Deku. Meanwhile, Bakugo focused intently on his training, attempting to master a technique. Kirishima, confused by Bakugo's distraction, questioned his timing. Ignoring him, Bakugo finally succeeded in his training, impressing Deku, who encouraged him to continue honing his skills. That was a significant step in becoming a competent swordsman, and Ikuzi's applause made Katsuki smile. He expressed his appreciation for Deku's inspirational story and inquired if he was still pursuing the Heavenly Rat. Deku confirmed his ongoing interest, sharing that even though he had paused his full pursuit years ago, he still harbored a strong desire to confront the creature. Katsuki, with a smirk, declared his eagerness to assist in taking it down. Deku reminded him that he wasn't ready to face the challenge in his current state and suggested they join Ho in the training room. Both boys nodded in agreement and hurried off to change into their costumes. Once dressed, they made their way to the training room. Before they began, Deku informed them of a few important points. They would be fighting Ho, needed to learn how to refine and effectively use their Haki, and were encouraged to give their best effort. Ikuzi approached Bakugo, emphasizing the need for him to work on his fluidity as a swordsman. He explained that unlocking his observation Haki would be crucial for his growth, reminding him that power alone wasn't everything. Bakugo nodded, acknowledging the advice. Kirishima then asked about his own training. Ikuzi assured him that he too needed to focus on observation to effectively block attacks. Strengthening his armament and quirk would come naturally as he developed his observation skills. Kirishima thanked his new trainer and assumed his battle stance. With a nod, Ikuzi signaled for them to begin. Bakugo immediately infused his swords with his will, causing them to erupt with energy, while Kirishima enveloped his arms in Haki and activated his quirk. Across the room, Ho stood confidently, extending his hand and uttering two words that signaled the start of their training. Where are they? Midnight Sensei said they would be easy to spot, but oh wait, hey you three. A strawberry-haired girl called out, waving at her juniors. The three girls exchanged glances and then walked over to the enthusiastic teen. Ashido asked if she was Maada Fua. Maada smiled and confirmed her identity, inviting them to follow her to see Mirko. As they entered the elevator, she tried to ease the tension by asking if they were excited. Mina, brimming with enthusiasm, shared that Mirko had been her favorite hero since childhood and one of her main inspirations. Maada found that exciting and turned to the quieter Uraraka and Yaoyorozu. Uraraka admitted she was a big fan but was nervous about whether Mirko would like her. Maada laughed and reassured her that just being herself would be enough. Yaoyorozu, on the other hand, expressed her admiration for Mirko's skills and her desire to learn new techniques, revealing her curiosity about Mirko's combat abilities. This prompted a curious response from Achiko, who questioned the relevance of Yaoyorozu's inquiry. Mina reminded her that Yaoyorozu often asked unusual questions, which made Maada laugh again. Yaoyorozu sighed and took out a book, indicating her serious nature. Mina theorized that being smart came with the need to know all sorts of extra details, just as the elevator suddenly stopped. "You have arrived," the automated voice announced as the doors opened. Stepping out, the girls spotted a frustrated Mirko, who was yelling about losing a game and threw her controller down. Spotting the four girls, she ordered Maada to the training room immediately. Ashido asked if this was normal, to which Maada explained that Mirko often got intense when gaming, as she was a ranked pro. Once in the training room, Maada changed into her hero outfit and prepared for a sparring match. "Are you ready?" she asked, taking her stance. Mirko declared the match on and lunged at her student. In response, Moata gripped her kanabo and jumped to meet her. Their clash demonstrated the strength of both fighters. Moata smirked, feeling she was catching up to Mirko, but Mirko quickly countered, using her agility to kick Moata's kanabo and send her sliding across the room. Despite the force of the kick, Moata managed to regain her footing. Realizing she needed to step up her game, she transformed into a half-animal, half-human hybrid. Ashido pointed out the transformation, while Yaoyorozu noted its resemblance to a legendary guardian dog she had read about. Mirko teased Moata about wanting to impress the new girls, and Moata focused, preparing for Mirko's next move. As Mirko charged, Moata swung her kanabo, but Mirko skillfully grabbed it and executed a powerful kick to Moata's face, leaving her dazed. Mirko followed up with 2 more swift kicks that sent Moata crashing against the wall. Struggling to rise, Moata realized she hadn't had time to protect herself properly. Determined, she used her kanabo to help her stand and decided to create a layer of ice for protection. "Ready for more?" Mirko asked, grinning as she prepared to attack again. Moata, taking a deep breath, challenged Mirko to come at her. Mirko laughed, promising to put her in her place, and charged forward. As Mirko approached, Moata closed her eyes, sensing the moment was right. She covered her kanabo in ice and swung it, successfully overpowering Mirko and knocking her back. This may have thrown the pro hero for a moment, but it was not enough to stop her onslaught. Regaining her footing, Mirko pounced around the room once again, moving at a much faster speed than before. Fua was forced to close her eyes, focusing even harder. She thought to herself that Mirko was about to come at her again, and she jumped into the air to dodge the incoming kick that shattered the ground beneath her. She yelled out her attack, Yggdrasil's Doom, as she slammed her kanabo down toward the pro hero. Unfortunately, Mirko managed to evade just in time, leaving Moata alone in the cloud of dust created by the impact. Confused, the girl looked around while wiping away the smoke, wondering if she had missed her target. Noticing her opponent's confusion, Mirko rushed back into the smoke, finding Moata. With a cocky grin, she suggested that the young hero hold on tight as she wrapped her thighs around her student's head. Yaoyorozu smirked, asking if everyone could see through the smoke. Ashido rolled her eyes, adjusting her infrared glasses, hinting that the answer might soon be revealed. It was an oddly cold day in Mizudafu, and 2 fire users decided to warm up by training vigorously. Endeavor stood over his battered son with a cocky smile, questioning why he was holding back. The half-and-half boy cursed under his breath, hitting the floor in frustration. Endeavor ordered him to get up, insisting he wouldn't have his son on the ground like that, even if it was against him. Although Shudo was reluctant, he rose to his feet, covering his leg in flames, ready to fight once again. Endeavor explained that Shudo's problem was that he used one side of his quirk at a time, which was incorrect. He needed to use both sides in conjunction, cooling himself with ice while using fire to maintain his heat. Shudo revealed that it was exhausting and made him feel like he would pass out after just a minute. Endeavor nodded, acknowledging the challenge. He suggested they train to prevent Shudo from feeling lightheaded. He also pointed out that Shudo's creativity was lacking, encouraging him to think outside the box, like using fire to fly instead of jumping normally. Shudo scoffed, explaining that he wasn't used to his fire side and would have thought of that if he were more familiar. Endeavor commanded him to attack with his joint jam at full strength, wanting to test something. Shudo smirked, ready to comply. Taking a deep breath, he activated both quirks on his legs and dashed around the room to build momentum. Endeavor observed his son's movements, noting that while they were fast, a competent observer would see through his speed. Once Shudo had built enough momentum, he appeared directly in front of his father and kicked him as hard as he could. He declared that Endeavor had asked for a kick, and he would deliver. The impact sent Endeavor back a few feet, and he coughed up a small amount of spit, smiling as he wiped his mouth and stood up straight. He complimented Shudo on his kick, noting that for someone without any armament, he had a lot of power behind his strikes. Endeavor instructed him to do it again, but this time he would fight back, though he wouldn't leave his spot. Shudo prepared for another attack, but before he could land it, Endeavor grabbed his leg and brought him down to the floor. Shudo let out a yelp of surprise. Endeavor critiqued his predictability and lack of defense due to his absence of Haki. He emphasized that this training was for Shudo's benefit, outlining the key areas he needed to improve, learning to unlock and use Haki, combining his quirks without drawbacks, using fire more creatively, and becoming less predictable in his attacks. He concluded, waiting for Shudo to respond. Shudo nodded in understanding, dusting off his suit. Endeavor then questioned the practicality of Shudo's suit for battle. Shudo explained that gentlemen wear suits, and it would be foolish for him to wear anything else. Just then, a black-haired teen interrupted, apologizing for being late and explaining he had some things to sort out before arriving. He walked up to the two Todorokis, asking if he had interrupted them. Endeavor welcomed the newcomer, saying it was a convenient time for him to arrive. He suggested that instead of training separately, they could train together. The boy introduced himself as Draw Sleeves, a 17-year-old intern from America with a quirk called Heat Up. After hearing his introduction, Shudo smiled and bowed, acknowledging that he was already familiar with him. He extended his hand for a handshake, which Draw accepted. Shudo noted that Draw spoke too formally for someone new to Japan, and Draw explained that he had only a few months to study the culture and language. Shudo advised him to relax with the bowing, as it wasn't necessary all the time. Draw sheepishly chuckled, rubbing the back of his head. Shudo then asked him to elaborate on his quirk, curious to learn more about the boy's abilities. Draw explained that his quirk was simple. The angrier he got, the stronger his fire became. The boy revealed that he had complete fire resistance and could manipulate his fire in various ways, which intrigued Todoroki. He added that when he got angry he would flare up, warning Todoroki to stay away if he became really angry, as he could burn him. Todoroki nodded in response, appreciating the information. With a smirk, Shudo suggested they fight, stepping back from the boy. The boy acknowledged this and stepped back as well, preparing for the match. As Todoroki widened the gap between them, he questioned why he felt so relaxed around this boy. He muttered to himself that he was usually only this open in the kitchen with his friends. The boy's resemblance to a friend from the past, Kishi, made him feel more at ease. With a determined shout, Todoroki announced the start of the fight. Immediately, the boy grabbed a metal pipe from his back and activated his quirk, pointing it at Todoroki. In response, Todoroki activated his quirks, tapping his feet on the floor before disappearing from sight. The boy noted Todoroki's speed and decided to sense his presence rather than search with his eyes. After a moment of concentration, he could feel Todoroki's presence and began tracking him visually. Dashing around the room, Shudo changed his movements, running up and jumping off the walls to keep the boy guessing. When he felt he had built enough momentum, he appeared in front of the boy, ready to attack. He executed a powerful kick, but it was blocked by the boy's pipe, frustrating him. The boy acknowledged Todoroki's speed and agility but declared it wasn't enough. He lowered his pipe and prepared to unleash a powerful blast. Todoroki quickly used his ice and Haki to protect himself, but the blast still knocked him away, forcing him to use his abilities again to regain his footing. Determined not to give up, the boy charged toward Todoroki. In response, Todoroki stood tall and used his Benai Jam to block the incoming strike. The boy smirked, suggesting he would melt Todoroki's strong legs. Todoroki retorted that he would freeze the boy solid, spinning around to kick him in the face, causing the older teen to stagger back. After separating momentarily, both fighters smiled and rushed at each other again, clashing before breaking apart once more. Instead of waiting for the boy to engage again, Todoroki decided to run around the room, shooting ice shards at him. Frustrated, he muttered to himself about wanting a proper fight. The boy, now behind Todoroki, kicked him in the back, further angering him. In a fit of rage, the boy released a pillar of fire from his body, shocking both Todorokis. Fully enraged, he began jumping around the room, trying to catch Todoroki. Feeling exhausted, Todoroki resolved to give it everything he had. He dodged a blast from the boy and prepared for his next move. Observing from the sidelines, Enji wondered what Shudo was planning as he sped up again. With determination, Shudo launched himself at the boy, executing a powerful move that sent him crashing into the wall. Landing on his feet, Todoroki winced as he watched the boy, now covered in rubble, get back up, flaring up even more. Enji thought to himself that the boy was impressive but felt it was time to intervene, realizing Shudo was outmatched. As the boy shouted defiantly, Enji stepped in, swiftly knocking him out cold with a chop to the back of the neck. He then picked up the boy's limp body and threw it over his shoulder, expressing his admiration for the adjustments the boy had made during the fight. He told Shudo that he needed to get stronger with his quirk and the haki he had displayed. After an hour, the boy finally woke up and approached the Todorokis, apologizing for his earlier behavior. He explained that his quirk affected his anger levels, making it easy for him to become frustrated. Enji reassured him that it was fine and instructed him to change back into his normal clothes for a discussion about his performance. Once the boy returned, he sat next to Shudo at the table. Enji cleared his throat and began to evaluate the fight, starting with Shudo. He praised Shudo for his impressive adjustments and unconscious use of haki, advising him to continue working on their earlier discussions. Shudo, slightly pleased, thanked his father, pretending not to enjoy the praise. Turning to the boy, Enji expressed his admiration for his performance and inquired about the limits of his power. The boy explained that he didn't have a strict limit but tried to manage his power to avoid serious consequences. He added that when he became very angry, he struggled to focus on using his haki, which intrigued the pro-hero even more. Enji noted that the boy's limits were unusual and praised him for his resilience, acknowledging that he had taken hits and executed moves that would intimidate most haki users. My advice for you would be to assess your anger and maintain control. If you can manage your rage, you could grow immensely. This will enable you to effectively use your haki and your pipe skills against your opponents. Additionally, I suggest you focus on developing your haki further. You utilize your fire quite well, using it to propel yourself or to shoot concentrated blasts. You employ it much like your father does, and quite differently from your sister. He advised Draw, mentioning his family members, which piqued Shudo's interest. Draw expressed his gratitude, promising to work on it. Shudo then inquired about his family, curious if they were heroes. Draw confirmed that his father was known as Prince and his sister as Firefist. Shudo noted that Prince was ranked second in America and Firefist was fifth, acknowledging the strength of Draw's family. He then wondered why Draw was not with them in America. Draw explained that his father believed Endeavor would be a better mentor for him and that he would be attending the same school as All Might. Shudo agreed, recognizing Endeavor's high rank. He made a light-hearted comment, glancing at his father, who appeared annoyed by the remark. Sleeves, confused, looked between the two Todorokis, unsure if the comment was directed at Endeavor or his father. Shudo clarified that it was aimed at Endeavor, adding that if he were to rank them, he would place Prince above Endeavor and drop the latter to 10th. Enji scoffed, expressing his confusion over Shudo's ongoing rivalry with him. He reminded them of their earlier discussion about their relationship and instructed them to rest for another half-hour before meeting him in the training room. He intended to prepare them for an upcoming confrontation with a dangerous villain. After their brief conversation, the two boys entered the training room and pushed themselves to their limits in preparation for the inevitable encounter with the villain terrorizing the streets of Hosu. Days later, the UA students began their internships, with many preparing for their first patrol. In the Might Tower, Gran Torino observed two exhausted teens and acknowledged their growth, though he noted they still struggled to land a significant strike on him. He encouraged them to get up, as it was time to track down the hero killer, who was rumored to be in Hosu. Excited, Izuku jumped up, inadvertently throwing Yusasu off his back. Yusutasu protested, while Izuku hurried to the training door, eager to leave. Before they set off, their senior made sure he had enough metal with him, concerned about potential dangers. Meanwhile, in another part of Tokyo, three teens patrolled the streets with their mentor, sensing an ominous presence nearby. Kirishima asked if they felt it, and Bakugo confirmed, trying to locate its source. Before he could finish his thought, a scream echoed from the direction he was pointing. Deku took the lead, instructing everyone to be cautious as they approached the alleyway. Using his observation haki, he spotted a disturbing sight that filled him with anger. He warned his teammates to close their eyes if they couldn't handle what they might see. A burned skeleton appeared, collapsing in front of them. Ijiro grimaced at the sight, stepping over the remains. Just then, a dark-haired criminal emerged, stepping on the charred corpse he had created. The group was taken aback by the man's appearance, prompting Deku to halt their advance. He strategized with his team, instructing them to stay back and attack on his command. The criminal taunted them, unleashing another wave of blue fire, which Deku skillfully cut through. As the man lunged at him, Deku retaliated with a powerful move, knocking the criminal against the wall. He then called for his teammates to join the fight. Mizu teleported Kirishima in front of the criminal, who retaliated with a fiery attack. Kirishima felt the intense heat and quickly, Ho teleported them out of the alleyway, returning them to the safety of the main street. Kirishima smiled weakly, turning off his quirk and Haki to reveal his burned skin. Bakugo patted his back, reminding him that he was fortunate his quirk was suited for such situations, or things could have been much worse. Ijiro wondered about the Haki the mysterious man had used in his last attack and how he had recovered so quickly. Deku speculated that the man was not a small-time criminal in terms of power, but likely new to the scene since he had never heard of him before. Ho mentioned that with the man's strength, he would certainly make a name for himself in the underworld. He then informed Deku that their team had gathered some important information. Deku asked where the meeting would take place, and Ho revealed it would be in Kyoto. With a smirk, Deku instructed Bakugo and Kirishima to prepare for their trip to Kyoto. In the back streets of Saitama, 5 women were on the lookout for criminals who needed to be stopped. Mirko sensed something amiss and alerted her team as they approached a corner. They overheard a man talking to himself about whether to steal more or call it a day. Ashido expressed her confusion, while Fuwa found the situation strange. Mirko smirked and jumped out to confront the criminal, demanding he let go of the money. The man, startled, realized he should have called it a day. As the girls joined Mirko, she reminded them of their training, preparing to engage the fancy-looking criminal. The man dropped a blue marble, releasing a cloud of smoke that filled the area. Moata struggled to focus through the haze, and Mirko quickly warned her team to move away, concerned that the gas could incapacitate them. After ensuring everyone was safe, she expressed her frustration at the criminal escaping. Yayarozu mentioned that she had collected some of the gas and believed she could analyze it. Mirko praised her intelligence and encouraged the team to find another target. On a tall building in Hosu, Shigaraki gazed down at the city, imagining the chaos he could unleash. Kurojiri reminded him that their mission tonight was to oversee the city and release the Nomu to capture Stain. Tamura sighed, preparing to jump off the building with his bodyguard. In an apartment outside Hosu, a notorious hero hunter was relaxing on his sofa, watching videos about All Might. He expressed his frustration with those who misunderstood the hero as he prepared to go out on patrol. His sister, feeling uneasy about the night, urged him to stay home, but he dismissed her concerns. He reassured her that if anything went wrong, she could find supplies hidden under his bed to help her escape. With a smile, he left the apartment, leaving her alone with her worries. As the hero killer arrived in Hosu, he scanned the streets for any heroes wandering alone, determined to confront them. Unbeknownst to him, a man he had met recently was watching, ready to unleash destructive creatures to disrupt the hero killer's plans. A UA student hurried through the streets of Hosu, promising himself he wouldn't be long. Using his observation Haki, he detected a strong murderous intent coming from a nearby alleyway. Confident that it was the villain he sought, he ran toward the source. As he turned the corner, he spotted the man he was searching for. True to his expectations, the masked figure loomed over an injured hero, poised to finish his sinister task. With a menacing grin, the masked man raised his sword above the hero's head, ready to deliver the final blow. Suddenly, Ilda charged in, shouting fiercely as he kicked the unsuspecting hero killer through several walls. Stain rubbed his head, bewildered by the sudden attack, before vanishing from Ingenium's sight. Ilda looked around, trying to locate the villain. Taking a moment to calm himself, he closed his eyes and focused, sensing the hero killer's presence. He soon spotted Stain emerging from an alleyway, a predatory glint in his eyes. The masked criminal lunged at him, calling out for the hero. Anticipating the attack, Ilda ducked under the initial strike. Stain, expecting the boy's move, adjusted his blade to swipe down as he passed overhead. However, Ilda had no intention of merely dodging. He retaliated with a powerful kick, his leg enveloped in energy, striking Stain hard enough to force him to cough. Determined, Ilda grabbed the hero slayer by his collar and dragged him upward, lifting them both into the air. With a fierce shout, he hurled Stain down toward the ground. As the villain plummeted, he realized the gravity of his situation. Preparing for another strike, Ilda activated his Recipro burst again, flipping through the air as he descended. With a mighty crash, he landed a devastating blow on Stain, sending him crashing into the ground and creating a loud thud that echoed around them. Panting heavily from the exertion, Ilda stood next to the fallen villain, assessing the crater where Stain lay motionless. After a moment, he felt his strength returning and began to walk again. However, a sudden wave of ominous pressure filled the air, causing him to glance back at the crater, his heart racing. His fears were confirmed when he realized Stain was no longer there. The hero killer whispered ominously in Ilda's ear, catching him off guard. With a swift motion, he pierced through Ilda's armor, the blade emerging from the other side. Ilda gasped, shocked to see the weapon protruding from his stomach. Stain taunted him, claiming he hadn't struck any vital points and that this was merely payback. He pulled his sword free, liking the blade with a twisted smile. Ilda, defiant, revealed that the hero Stain had previously defeated was his brother, Ingenium. Stain laughed mockingly, recalling the name and belittling Ilda's quest for revenge. As Ilda struggled to break free from Stain's grip, the villain explained that his power was the reason for the boy's immobilization. Just as he prepared to strike the unconscious hero nearby, a nearby bin began to shake, distracting him. A levitating figure appeared, smirking as he moved both Ilda and the hero to a rooftop. With a wave of his hand, Isizuku sent Stain soaring into the air, following up with a powerful attack that sent the villain crashing back down. Stain groaned, struggling against the weight of his own clothes, trying to break free from the magnetic hold. Isizuku called out to Izuku, throwing him into the air. Ilda weakly called out to his friend, but Stain hesitated, recalling his previous encounter with Izuku. Realizing his chance was slipping away, Isizuku quickly pinned Stain's limbs to the ground with his powers. Izuku, determined to protect his friend, unleashed a massive attack, creating a giant fist that slammed down on Stain, causing debris to rain down around them. As Izuku landed at the edge of the rubble, worry washed over him. He feared he might have gone too far. Isizuku reassured him to stay alert as they cleared the debris. Yet, when the rubble was removed, they were met with shock and confusion. The villain was gone, leaving only a pool of blood behind. Before Izuku could react, Stain appeared behind him, pressing his blade against the boy's skin. Isizuku cursed himself for not acting quickly enough, realizing the danger they were in. Stain rambled about Izuku's potential, drawing eerie comparisons to a young All Might, hinting at the dark path that lay ahead for both him and his friend. The boy questioned whether the other was truly there to make a change or merely to offer false hope. He clarified that if the person was among those shunned by society due to unfortunate circumstances, then he was on their side. However, if he was a ruthless criminal acting for his own pleasure, then he would indeed be offering false hope. This response pleased Stain, who remarked that the boy was exactly as he had expected and could see why someone admired him so much. As Stain prepared to strike Midoriya, Isizuku shouted a warning, distracting Stain and allowing Midoriya to escape the incoming barrage of arrows. Stain, however, was quick, managing to cut Izuku's neck and paralyze him while deflecting the arrows with ease. Isizuku, realizing Midoriya's predicament, scanned the battlefield and noticed pieces of metal debris behind Stain. He launched the debris at Stain's back, forcing the villain to use his foresight to defend against the incoming projectiles. Frustrated, Stain acknowledged that he was losing control of the situation. Seizing the moment, Isizuku attached a new set of metal ball to Izuku's back, dragging him up to the rooftop opposite the pro hero and Ilda. He urged Izuku to use his Haki at maximum strength, which elicited a weak smile from his junior. With a burst of effort, Isizuku freed Izuku from Stain's quirk. Izuku expressed gratitude but questioned their next move. Yusutasu admitted he was unsure, noting that their mentor was occupied dealing with multiple Nomu. Izuku acknowledged his disadvantage in hand-to-hand combat and mentioned that Stain had yet to use his Conqueror's Haki. Before he could finish, Stain landed on their rooftop, radiating menace. Stain remarked on their escape, expressing his frustration. Realizing there was no time to retreat, Izuku activated his second gear and prepared to attack. He stretched his arm back and unleashed a powerful strike, but Stain dodged and targeted Yusutasu instead. Stain declared his intention to attack, covering his sword in armament Haki. Yusutasu, determined, blocked the attack with his own Haki-covered arm. Stain, impressed by the boy's control, added his own Conqueror's Haki to the assault, sending Yusutasu flying off the roof and into a nearby building. Not wasting a moment, Stain leaped off the building to confront the injured Yusutasu. Izuku, witnessing this, jumped down to assist his friend. Yusutasu, despite his predicament, found solace in knowing he could coat his attacks with his will. Stain, however, prepared to deliver a final blow, but Izuku intervened with a fierce strike, sending Stain crashing through a wall and into an alleyway. Izuku offered his hand to Yusutasu, who accepted it to stand. They exchanged thoughts on the unexpected fire that had erupted during the fight, with Yusutasu speculating it was due to the speed of his movements. As they approached the immobile Stain, Izuku sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The ground began to tremble as Stain emerged from the rubble, expressing his growing frustration and intent to unleash his full power. Yusutasu, ready for the challenge, formed a metal arm to enhance his defenses. Izuku, determined, activated his second gear once more. The two boys took their battle stances, prepared for the confrontation ahead, when an unfamiliar voice suddenly shouted. Running through the backstreets of Hosu, two boys eagerly searched for the hero killer Stain, hoping the loud thud they heard was connected to him. Todoroki praised his teammate, sensing a strong wave of murderous intent. Draw smiled, confident in his instincts, as they heard another thud followed by an immense pressure. Peering around the corner, Draw spotted an angry Stain, bloodied but still standing, engaged in a fierce battle. The black-haired teen smirked, noting that Stain was clearly struggling against his opponent. Todoroki asked about their plan of attack, eager to know how his senior intended to handle the situation. Draw suggested firing a Masenko to distract Stain, allowing Todoroki to meet him in the air with one of his impressive kicks. Todoroki smiled at the plan, adjusting his tie in preparation. With determination, Draw stepped out of his hiding spot and shouted, unleashing a blast of fire at the enraged Stain, forcing the villain to dodge. Stain, surprised by the sudden attack, questioned the presence of another kid, expressing his frustration at the lack of oversight from pro-heroes. Todoroki seized the opportunity, meeting Stain in the air with a powerful kick, sending the hero killer crashing into a nearby convenience store. After the successful attack, Todoroki joined his friends on the ground, where Midoriya greeted him with excitement, hugging him tightly. Draw, noticing the commotion, grinned as he helped the injured heroes, Native and Ingenium, to their feet. Midoriya, feeling a bit guilty, laughed as he turned to face his friends. The two boys exchanged determined looks, ready to confront the notorious hero killer. However, Todoroki suggested they wait for the rest of their group, pointing back at the four men still in the alley. Yusutasu, standing over the injured heroes, called for Draw's assistance. Draw approached the red-haired teen, eager to help. Yusutasu instructed Draw to place his hands on the injured heroes and use his Haki at full strength to break them free from Stain's quirk. Draw nodded, ready to assist. Following Yusutasu's cue, he activated his Haki, and after a moment of silence, the two injured men sat up, taking deep breaths in relief. Draw felt a sense of accomplishment, realizing his Haki had contributed to freeing the heroes. Native expressed his gratitude, determined to join the fight against Stain despite his injuries. Draw questioned the injured hero's decision, but Native was resolute, smirking as he prepared to confront the villain. Yusutasu shrugged, ready to join the fight as well, while Draw hesitated, glancing at the masked Ilda, who was still in a precarious state. Ilda, struggling but determined, asked Draw for help with his wounds. Draw quickly assessed the situation, realizing Ilda had multiple injuries that needed attention. After treating Ilda's wounds, Draw advised against fighting, surprised at the teen's pain tolerance. However, Ilda was unwavering, fueled by his determination to take down Stain. Draw sighed, knowing they couldn't stop him, and began to walk out of the alleyway. Isizuku followed closely behind, gathering metal debris for the upcoming battle. He introduced himself to Draw, who reciprocated with his name. Yusutasu revealed his hero name, Magnus, as he forged metal fists to prepare for the confrontation. As the sun rose on a new day, a group of teens sat on their assigned hospital beds, discussing the events of the previous night. Todoroki lamented the loss of his phone, frustrated that all his pictures were gone. Midoriya, confused, tried to console him, but Todoroki brushed him off, insisting it was none of his business. Izuku then pondered how they had failed to notice the helicopter above them during the chaos. Yusutasu explained that their focus on Stain had prevented them from detecting the helicopter, which posed no immediate threat. Draw chimed in, suggesting that being recorded could have its advantages, even if it had its downsides. The positives were that they received credit for taking down one of the most dangerous criminals in Japan, but the negatives were that the League of Villains could capitalize on the situation and potentially grow in strength. Todoroki explained this while sipping his water. Yusutasu questioned his junior, confused by the assertion that they could grow stronger. He wondered how that was possible since Stain had been one of their best members. Shudo elaborated that Stain's ideals were relatable to many people, which meant the League could appear as a family of misfits bonding over those beliefs. It was a perspective that made sense to Kodomo, who finally grasped his junior's point. He acknowledged understanding Stain's logic but believed his methods were misguided. This admission drew looks from everyone in the room. Todoroki sighed and shook his head, noting that such thoughts weren't meant to be openly shared. Draw chimed in, emphasizing that no one had the right to dictate who could be heroes. He pointed out that while Stain's arguments had some depth, they were ultimately flawed. The act of eliminating heroes who had done good deeds because of their selfish nature would have a detrimental effect on society. He explained that heroes had only managed to keep villains at bay due to their numbers, and if the hero society lost strength, the villains would regain the upper hand as they once had. Midoriya, intrigued, asked what the situation had been like before. Draw recounted that until 5 years ago, criminals had dominated while heroes struggled to keep them in check. He recalled overhearing his sister and father discussing how All Might and other top heroes had dealt with the crisis, keeping the truth hidden from the public for nearly a century. Midoriya pondered aloud, connecting the timeline to All Might's defeat of All for One, suggesting that the latter must have been controlling the world if his defeat forced the villains into hiding. Todoroki interjected, recalling that the PRD coincided with the infamous Chainsaw Massacre, leading him to question where Ilda was going. Ilda insisted he needed to leave, giving Shuto a cold glare. Todoroki resisted, concerned about Ilda's well-being, but Yusutasu intervened, suggesting they let him go as it seemed important. Reluctantly, Todoroki stepped aside, allowing Ilda to exit the room with a grateful bow. Draw remarked that they might have upset Ilda with their discussion about Stain, to which Yusutasu shrugged, acknowledging that differing opinions were a part of life. He expressed relief that they hadn't faced any consequences for their earlier fight without hero licenses, recalling how harshly they might have been punished otherwise. As the three boys continued their conversation, Midoriya checked his group chat and asked about someone named Overhaul, interrupting their discussion. Todoroki and Sleeves admitted they had no idea who he was, while Kodomo mentioned he had heard the name but didn't think it was significant. Midoriya informed them that Overhaul had attempted to meet the heavenly demon but was stopped by 2 of his friends and himself. Yusutasu smirked, imagining his introverted friend in a fight. He questioned why the criminals would seek a meeting, noting that the heavenly demon typically didn't engage with low-level criminals. Midoriya explained that Kaken and Ijiro had mentioned Overhaul possessing quirk-erasing bullets, and he had managed to grab one during the encounter. Yusutasu mused that Overhaul might not be a low-level criminal after all and began searching for more information about him on his phone. In a tall building in Tokyo, one man and his protégés sat in silence, reflecting on the previous night's events. A red-haired boy apologized for allowing someone to escape, looking at his mentor with regret. The week of Class A's internships had passed, and everyone returned to class, eager to share their experiences. For some, the experiences were mundane, while for others, they were anything but. Kaminari pressed Bakugo for details about his internship, prompting Bakugo to respond curtly that they had stopped a deal and warning Kaminari to stop asking or face dire consequences. Behind Bakugo, Izuku was focused, and when Katsuki noticed his tension, he asked what was bothering him. Midoriya explained that after his encounter with Stain, he realized he had much to improve upon, particularly in his Haki and quirk usage. Bakugo sighed, understanding his friend's concerns, and suggested that Midoriya focus on mastering advanced armament before progressing further. Midoriya looked at him quizzically, prompting Bakugo to question if something was on his face. Midoriya laughed, teasing that Bakugo had bunny ears, just as Ishido entered the conversation with a smile, causing Bakugo to attempt to attack her playfully. Mina informed Katsuki that his move wouldn't work on her as she demonstrated her quirk, causing a slight burn on his hand with her acid. Katsuki grinned, acknowledging that the rabbit had taught her a few moves, which made her smile in return. Mina suggested that Izuku should use his fingers to tangle people up, noting that he could control his body in that way. Izuku thanked her and quickly wrote down her advice in his notebook. As they discussed their quirks, a familiar blue-eyed blonde burst through the door, announcing that he needed the class to put on their hero costumes and follow him outside for a training exercise. The students responded enthusiastically, ready to comply. Once outside, All Might happily explained the day's exercise, a race to rescue him. He would be positioned on top of a nearby construction site, and the students would race against 5 classmates to reach him as quickly as possible. The announcement sparked excitement among the students, with Bakugo expressing his enjoyment of the intense training. Kirishima agreed, ready to get involved. All Might announced the first 5 participants: Ilda, Midoriya, Ishido, Sero, and Ojiro. He instructed them to take their starting positions while the rest of the class watched on a big screen. As the race began, Izuku, Mina, Sero, and Ojiro dashed toward All Might, utilizing their quirks to gain an advantage. Kirishima noted how fluidly Izuku moved, comparing him to a superhero. Kaminari pointed out Mina's impressive gliding technique with her acid. However, they were surprised to see Ilda standing still at first, but he soon shot off with newfound speed, using a technique his brother had taught him. Ilda felt exhilarated as he accelerated, but just as he neared victory, he slipped and fell, knocking himself out. Class A watched in concern as Ilda fell to the ground. Todoroki remarked on Ilda's speed, while Yayazor noted that he was still recovering from an injury. Izuku ultimately reached All Might first, winning the race. After the exercise, the class changed in the locker rooms and prepared for lunch. In the locker room, 3 boys gathered around a hole they had discovered. Curious, Todoroki peeked through and was met with an unexpected view of the girls' locker room. Mineta eagerly asked what he saw, and Todoroki described the beauty he had glimpsed, which excited his friends. Kaminari pressed for details about the other girls, and Todoroki confirmed he had seen them all, even noting that he could see through Toru's invisibility. Mineta, eager to see for himself, pushed past Todoroki but was quickly met with a painful surprise when Jairu confronted him, warning him against his perverted behavior. Momo commented on Todoroki's unusual ability to see through Toru's quirk, shaking her head at the boys' antics. Once everyone was dressed, they left the locker rooms for lunch. As they queued, a tall second year approached Izuku, asking to jump ahead in line. Recognizing him, Izuku welcomed the request. Bakugo teased the second year, who shot back with a retort. The second year's friend, Mizu, noted that their tactic had worked, allowing them to cut in line. They noticed their friend Moata hugging Achiko, Momo, and Mina, and were surprised to see the girls together as a group. Yusutasu then inquired about a new student, prompting curiosity. Among the group, if someone was looking for him, they would find him at the front of the queue with Todoroki and Ilda. Midoriya pointed this out, much to the annoyance of his 3 upperclassmen. Fua sighed, expressing her frustration that the plan was to stay close together, not be separated, which meant he would get his food first. Mina pondered whether to feel happy that they were considered close enough to rely on them or upset about being used, ultimately shrugging when she couldn't reach a conclusion. Fuwa, trying to lighten the mood, suggested they see it as a positive thing, promising that they would sit down and talk like good upperclassmen, earning skeptical looks from her classmates. She reassured them that it wouldn't be bad, but they rolled their eyes in response. Lunch had passed, and Class A was in their final lesson of the day when their homeroom teacher unexpectedly arrived, leaving them confused. Aizawa acknowledged their confusion and informed them that they would soon be going to a summer camp at the start of their summer vacation for a week. Everyone was invited and required to attend, but they had to pass their final exams first. He explained that midterms would occur before the finals to ensure they were prepared. After delivering this news, he left the class in stunned silence. Sero commented that it was both exciting and scary, to which Izuku responded that if they worked hard, they could succeed. He encouraged everyone to revise and train during the time they had left, further solidifying his role as their leader, prompting a unified cheer from the class. In a dark room somewhere in Japan, a mysterious man observed his protege, sighing after a moment of contemplation. An old man inquired about his distress. The masked man expressed his disappointment in Shigaraki, revealing that he was not what he had originally intended. He had planned for Shigaraki to become the new ruler, but it seemed he would need to reclaim his position. The doctor reminded him of his weakened state since the fight with All Might, but the masked man insisted on finding a healing quirk. He envisioned using Shigaraki's destructive tendencies to aid his own ambitions, a twisted smile forming on his face. The old doctor questioned whether his former subordinates would return to his side, to which the masked man ominously replied that if they knew what was best for them, they would return, but if not, he would deal with them harshly. With midterms completed and the final exam only a week away, Class A exhibited a split demeanor. Half of the class appeared relaxed, while the other half exuded confidence in their abilities to pass both the written and practical exams. Kaminari dramatically fell to the ground, exclaiming how daunting the final exam felt. Bakugo scoffed at him, provoking Kaminari's anger. Tokoyami helped Kaminari up and agreed that the approaching exam was indeed troubling. Ashido teased Tokoyami about his score, prompting Bakugo to reveal that she had sought help from others for her studies. Kaminari, feeling cornered, approached Ashido, but she clarified that her friends had accompanied her, easing his concerns. Kaminari then turned to Ilda, pleading for tutoring, but Ilda hesitated, claiming he wasn't the best tutor. Midoriya quickly interjected, suggesting that everyone should seek help from Yaoyorozu, who would be happy to assist them in preparing for the practical exam. This raised the spirits of the class. Yaoyorozu expressed her own concerns about combat training, but Midoriya reassured her that he would be there to help, focusing on combat training instead of academics. His encouragement boosted the class's confidence. Kaminari humorously dubbed Midoriya their savior, comparing him to a sun god, which made Izuku laugh and pat his friend's head. Todoroki scoffed at how some people could fail exams despite having all the necessary tutoring, jokingly suggesting a dumb quirk. Kaminari retorted playfully, pointing at the relaxed Todoroki. Meanwhile, Bakugo and Kirishima observed the chaos from the back of the room, exchanging glances as their phones buzzed simultaneously. It was that time again, and Kirishima let out a sigh. Bakugo, with a mischievous grin, teased his friend about facing the consequences of getting simple math problems wrong as he dragged him out of the room. A girl in the class mentioned that if anyone wanted to start revising, they could join her that day since she was planning to tutor Achiko and Mina. Half of the class nodded in agreement. Sero then asked Midoriya if he was busy that day. Midoriya checked his phone and replied that he was occupied but would be available the next day. He waved goodbye to his classmates, announcing that he needed to learn more about the dangers posed by the League of Villains. After a week of intense studying and creative combat training, the class felt prepared for their toughest challenge yet, the final exam. Their homeroom teacher announced the start of the written portion, and hours passed before they completed it. Once they were released and headed to the changing rooms, a collective sigh of relief escaped them, quickly followed by laughter. Sero remarked that the exam had been easy, and Kaminari agreed. Todoroki commented on the absurdity of celebrating mediocrity, earning a laugh from Bakugo. Kaminari thanked Midoriya for the new boots he was wearing, while Midoriya humbly credited Hatsume and Yayazoro for the design. Bakugo, ever the realist, urged Kaminari to put his new gear to good use. After changing, the class headed to Ground Gamma, surprised to find all their teachers waiting for them. Kirishima wondered why the teachers were there instead of conducting their own classes, while Bakugo speculated that they might be there to inform them that they would be facing something other than robots. In a backstreet of Ground Gamma, a dirty blonde student was smashing cement blocks created by his teacher, feeling confident in his growing skills. Cementos, observing closely, noted how the boy's moves were maturing with each fight. He decided he needed to act quickly, forming 2 slabs of cement to try and trap the boy. However, the student was quick on his feet, smashing through the blocks. Cementos, undeterred, launched a surprise attack, catching the boy off guard and stunning him momentarily. The hero warned that the boy's overconfidence could lead to his downfall as he prepared another strike. Meanwhile, in a nearby building, a frightened student was hiding in a dark room, overwhelmed by fear. Koda, feeling the need to take action, crawled toward the door. A rat tugged at his pants, drawing his attention. Curious, Koda followed the rat, who seemed eager to show him its friends. However, when the rat tossed an insect at him, Koda squealed in fright and tried to escape. The rat persisted, pulling him closer to the beetle. Eventually, Koda found himself frozen in fear as the beetle crawled onto his leg. Just then, the beetle pointed outside, prompting Koda to open the door. To his horror, he found Ojiro on the ground, struggling to get up. Ojiro managed to smile at Koda, who whispered his name in concern. Apologizing for his earlier fear, Koda was comforted by his rat friends. Ojiro, despite his weakened state, encouraged Koda not to be afraid, reminding him that he was not alone and had many friends around him. Inspired by Ojiro's words, Koda looked at the rats and insects gathered around him, ready to stand by his side. Koda agreed as he picked up his friends and walked out the door. Ojiro suggested they ask if the little creatures knew Haki, noting that insects and animals had a natural aptitude for it due to their environments. Ojiro pushed himself out of Koda's arms to stand on his own. Koda then asked his little friends if they could use Haki, earning an excited squeal from them. He explained to Mashireo that the pack leader even had Conqueror's Haki, though he couldn't coat himself in it. Ojiro smirked, commenting that the rat had more potential than most of them and could probably defeat them. He instructed Koda to throw a bomb at their teacher when he tried to cover himself in cement. Koda wondered how Ojiro knew Cementos would do that. Ojiro explained that with a pack of rats and a swarm of insects approaching, anyone would want to protect themselves from the chaos. As they rounded the corner, they spotted a serious-looking Cementos. Cementos, taken aback by Koda's sudden yell, began to surround himself with cement to keep the attackers at bay. He thought aloud about how difficult animals could be and that his best bet was to keep them away from him. Ojiro pointed out that it was time to act, signaling Mashireo to throw his bomb at Cementos, catching the hero off guard. Cementos, confused by the pink gas bomb, tried to understand what was coming his way. Koji followed suit, throwing his bomb right after Ojiro's. Realizing the kids had gas masks and were holding gas bombs, Cementos understood it was meant for them, not for Midnight. He attempted to deflect the bomb with his cement blocks but missed, and the bomb shattered on his face, releasing gas. With a smile, he acknowledged the kid's cleverness as he fell unconscious. The winners of this fight were Mashireo Ojiro and Koji Koda. Ojiro celebrated their victory but slowly fell to the floor, exhausted. Koda urged him to stay awake, assuring him that the exit wasn't too far. In the middle of the main road, 2 heroes in training faced off against their principal, determined to finally defeat him. After several failed attempts at Sero's strategy, the 2 prepared for another go. Sato, feeling his energy wane, expressed the need to win with one last attack. Sero, panting, mentioned his surprise at Cementos's ability to cover his mech in Haki and decided to gain momentum by attaching himself to the building. As Sero swung away, he told Sato to be ready. Cementos, unimpressed, activated his electrical defenses, remarking on the boy's lack of innovation. Sato, summoning all his sugar reserves, beefed up and awaited Hanta's signal, repeating his need for more power. He declared his intention to smash through the mech as he prepared his fist like All Might. Sero, spinning around the building, called for Sato to grab on. With a command to fly, he sent Sato hurtling toward the mech. Sato, focused on his target, shouted as he smashed through the glass protecting his principal. Sero celebrated the impressive feat and threw a gas bomb at Nizu, hitting him directly in the face. Nizu acknowledged his defeat as he succumbed to the effects of the gas. The force of Sato's punch sent him reeling backward, but Sero caught him before he hit the ground, assuring him that he had him. Once they landed, Sato asked if they had succeeded, and Sero confirmed they had. The winners of this fight were Rikido Sato and Hanta Sero. As the boys walked away, the mech began to fall apart, revealing the damage left behind. Perhaps Sato had more power than he initially realized. Shoji informed his teammate that he believed he had figured out their opponent's pattern. Azui leaped closer to hear him better, prompting Shoji to explain that their teacher had set tunnels, allowing him to pop up in different locations. He planned to wait for the teacher to emerge and instructed Azui to throw a bomb when he went back inside. As they prepared, their teacher suddenly popped out of the ground, striking Shoji before disappearing once more. Tsuyu noted that their teacher could be in either of the two holes, throwing her bomb at the left one while Shoji sent his bomb into the right. As the gas began to spread, both students remained on edge, unable to see their teacher, which meant he might have evaded their attack. Shoji reminded Tsuyu to stay alert, and she nodded in agreement. Their concerns were soon validated when Power Loader emerged from the ground, waving away the smoke. He remarked on the effectiveness of his helmet's built-in filtration system before launching himself at the injured Shoji. Mezu struggled to react to the sudden attack, staring at his teacher's gauntlets, anticipating the impact. Tsuyu urged him to act, kicking Power Loader toward Shoji with increased speed. With a determined shout, Shoji struck Power Loader directly in the face, causing a crack in his helmet. Following up, Tsuyu used her tongue to lift Power Loader and slam him into a gas-filled hole. As they watched, Tsuyu smiled, observing their teacher's efforts to crawl out of the hole as the gas began to take effect. The outcome of the fight was clear. Tsuyu Azui and Mezu Shoji emerged victorious.